Hello, friends, and welcome to history's most exciting live stream, the Talking with Famous People live stream. I'm host Eric, this is Rachel, and together we're here to discuss today what's known as the Oliver Linehan lesson. And the reason, especially that this ends up being actually made, this video, is that I went in to take a bath, as is my wont on occasion. And while I was in the bath, who am I thinking about naturally but Oliver Linehan? Why wouldn't I be thinking of him? I was thinking specifically about... It's too hot. I was thinking specifically about how he displayed more discretion than I in the typing of Addy at the end when I noted one of his comments, or maybe it was in the live chat, I don't remember where I saw it, but he's like, ISFJ, probably INFJ. He took adequate account of the fact that I didn't really take adequate account of the fact that she might be an ISFJ. I didn't really test the SI that strongly. And then when I came outside from my bath, what do I walk in on but Rachel listening to the live stream from earlier, not the live stream, the premiere from earlier, and saying, wow, Oliver Linehan is really killing it, like being right about everything. And I found that to be the case on multiple occasions as well. He's an ISFJ, but he's one of the most consistently correct people about typing that I ever encounter. And like with his a little bit less certainty than me regarding whether Addy might possibly be an ISFJ was justified by the typing, at least by the questions I asked in data that was presented to everybody. So I would say that one important lesson to learn in typology is don't underestimate ISFJ intuition just because they're sensors. Once they decide to learn something, they can be quite good at learning it and quite intuitive about it. It's just they have to make a decision to learn it.
He really has caught on. He said something else in the comments where I was like, oh yeah, he said that he was talking about deliberator types, and I was like, wow, you're really learning from host Eric. I gave him props. It's really cool. Like,
I gotta say, if you want to ask somebody to type you who's not a professional typologist and who seems to have a good head on the shoulder about it, I'd say Oliver Linehan.
Yeah.
He seems to have a very good head on the shoulder about it.
He does.
So, that's not in any attempt to denigrate any other heads you may have, just to be clear. Okay, so... Well, here we are live streaming.
I didn't get a notification. Oh yeah, here it is.
There it is.
Good, yeah,
notification.
So people will show up.
Mm-hmm. Have you got any thoughts on ISFJs, on intuition, on whether I might be missing some ISFJs among the people I think are INFJs? I don't think I was wrong about her. I don't think he thinks I was wrong about her either. I think he was just basically making note of the fact that I didn't adequately test the SI to make sure that she wasn't ISFJ. I think she was INFJ. She felt INFJ,
Yeah, while I was watching too, there were answers where I was like, she, even looked like me at one point, like when she was holding her chin and thinking. Mm-hmm. That's what I do.
Of interesting note, lately, in the typing sessions that I've done, things I think are worth noticing and going, oh, so that's what happens. So, first of all, something probably people will be interested to hear is I actually typed Spacey's girlfriend last night. Mm-hmm. Also ISFP. So just like the guy who I just premiered the typing of, who was ISFP. That's what I mean. Just that's what I meant by that. Anyway, sorry for being a little bit slow here. And she demonstrated something that I suspect I would see more from ISFPs if I dealt with them in non-one-on-one situations. So in other words, if there's somebody else in the room or something. So when I asked her a question, like when I ask ISTPs a question, and this is in real life, and they're surprised by it, they'll typically literally turn around, walk away from me, and then walk back to me, and then answer my question. Well, what I encountered last night with ISFP, Spacey's girlfriend, is that she'd mute the mic periodically, and then when she'd unmuted, I'd hear the end of a conversation that was going like this, going like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what the answer is, you know. So neither ISTPs nor ISFPs like giving answers when they don't know what the answer is. And if you watch the earlier premiere of the ISFP typing, you may have noticed that there were some long pauses while I waited for him to decide whether he had an answer for something or not, basically. That's, I think, typical of any polar, but also of being a deliberation type as your dominant. So if you are a deliberation type with extroverted sensing instead of extroverted intuition, then you're really going to not like pressure to respond right this second. You know, you want to think about shit. This is what it means to deliberate. Or feel your way through it, either way, you know. Another thing I've noted in the earlier typing, which was really great for me to hear, was when, what's his name? Isaac?
Yes.
When Isaac gave me an answer for what he yells at himself about, and it was causing himself physical pain, like biting his tongue or stubbing his toe. I think that was such a great example of what demonstrative, countervalued, critical parent, 6-slot SI would look like. And I didn't have a good concrete example like that prior, so that was gratifying to. I'm always happy when I encounter things like that. And in fact, it made me. I've been thinking more about giving a little bit more credit to the notion of extroverted intuition being about gathering ideas, because the thing is this: if you're an extroverted intuition Dom, it is true that you keep track of lots of random ideas. That's how you use your introverted sensing. It's a mistake to say that extroverted intuition itself is the function that's gathering ideas per se, but it's setting the frame through which your introverted sensing is remembering things. And so as a consequence, it does have that quality, extroverted intuitors, of idea gatherers. Another interesting thing that I encountered recently that I wanted to talk about or mention well, you can see the difference in how extroverted intuition polar questions play out. Some of them are much more well linked than others. So when I ask for synonyms for a word people have lots of synonyms for, ISFPs can produce lots of synonyms for it. If I say, give me synonyms for happy, they can produce lots of synonyms for it. If I give them some more complicated word, like, bombastic. Hey, GE Requiem. It's a little slow getting going today, but that's fine. Sometimes that's just the nature of the peat moss, as they say. Cool, Oliver Linehan. We're just giving you props for your typing skills. Consistently in live streams, Oliver Linehan
Yeah,
is just
really.
like nailing it early and often.
Mm-hmm.
So, no offense to any of the other people around here, but the name that would come to mind is somebody who is most right most often is Oliver Linehan. Now, you might say, well, that's just because he agrees with you all the time. But it's not the case. It's like, he's nailing shit before I've said anything, right?
He's clearly paying attention to the tests that you're giving during the interview.
I mean,
process.
what I'm saying is it may be that he's agreeing with me, but he's agreeing with me before he knows what my position is.
Right.
So it's like, and in some instances, he withholds judgment more than I, such as with the Addy typing, based purely on the date of the typing. I think it would have been the wisest typing was what Oliver Linehan had said. ISFJ probably N, but my gut and my subjective reasons, I'm much more confident than that she is actually an INFJ. But based on the actual objective data in front of everybody, I think the best conclusion for a third party to make would be ISFJ probably N, simply because I didn't test the SI enough, you know. So I was impressed by that. And Rachel was, I guess, impressed today watching the typing of the ISFP, and we sort of independently wanted to talk about Oliver Linehan, and so it seemed like, well, this is an interesting topic for a video. ISFJ intuition, don't underestimate it. It can be quite good, especially when they learn. You know, they're learning types. SI types are learning types, and that means they usually start out pretty crappy at something and get better at it. Or if they do have some natural talent, it's going to lend them to practice that more. But they are creatures of practice and growth rather than sort of holistic grasping all at once. So it's not
Boba Fett, we're talking about Oliver Linehan, how he's been really learning the cognitive functions to the point where he's able to be correct in his predictions of typings.
So we went to the weed store today.
Yeah.
We got Sunday Driver, half ounce of this. And we got a half ounce of GMO, it's called. I think they're both quite tasty.
Yeah, they are.
For bulk weeds, you know. The main thing about bulk weeds, hi Buzzer the Clown, is that you get smaller nugs. It's like if you pay more, you get the same weed, you just get bigger nugs of it. Mm-hmm. And nicely presented, sort of super manicured little nugs.
Yeah.
Whereas these ones are, it's like the nugs that didn't make it into the fancier bottle that was more expensive. Hi, Bendiania.
Hey, Bendiania.
How you doing today?
Hi, Winston's mom.
Are you bending, sending,
recommending,
or lending? Spending, sending, recommending, or lending?
Oh, I like that.
Those are your possible things, Bendy and Anya. You're sifting through a ton of seedy, sticky, smelling. Man, we haven't gotten seeds in ages.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the last time we got a seed in a bag of weed. It's been a while.
It's been a long time, yeah.
When we do, we're excited. Ooh, a seed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Eric is really careful with the seeds, too. I tried, but I didn't germinate the seeds that I found. So I think that was my first mistake. I think I should have germinated it.
Well, I mean, INFJs definitely don't test polar on SI. And I agree that they are able to demonstrate the FE parts of SI more than you might expect for 8th slot, I guess. Which means to say, relate personal anecdotes mostly.
Yeah, that's true. I try not to, but I do.
No. I mean, it's a purposeful way that you bridge your NI nature to make it more understandable and useful to other people. Is unlike ENFJs, you understand the power of a personal example to clarify something for somebody. Like
yes.
if I ask a question like I asked the ISFP earlier about what sort of thing makes you mad at yourself? If I just ask that question without any clarification at all, I'm going to get one kind of answer. But I said, for example, I get mad at myself when I knock something over, like a cup of coffee next to me. I say, oh, I knew that was right on my foot. Why did I put it there? That helps people sort of put in the right frame what kind of answer I'm looking for, right? And so then that enabled that ISFP to think about it and go, oh, I guess it's when I stub my toe or something equivalent that makes him angry at himself, right?
Yeah,
that was a really useful answer for me to hear. It was like, wow, that's really great to have a concrete example of SI6 slot.
Yeah.
So then I can use that example in the future when I'm trying to explain what 6 slot SI is like and ask people then to self-report about that even. It's not going to be as reliable as the answer I got today, which he even prefaced with, I'm sure this has nothing to do with cognitive functions, but... But regardless, like that's what it means to be an SI person, learning and getting better at things by repetition and practice and stuff, right? It's like collapsing things down into collecting examples plus, seeing which things actually play out consistently across time. So I was kind of hopeful on the question that how do you feel right now that when that FI people wouldn't say neutral? Well, that hasn't turned out to be the case. I've encountered a few FI people who give me that response. So that was a hypothesis that I sort of tested out and was wrong. Once I've tested that hypothesis a bunch of times and it validates against other things, then I start to rely on it more as an actual test question. But the other thing is like, extroverted intuition, polar, shows up in some kinds of possibility questions more than in other kinds of possibility questions. It really shows up in like Inky Pinkies. It really shows up in the name my invention. Works really well to show any polar. They can usually only come up with one name. So Dulles verifies that was not a good question for me to... My hypothesis was in fact wrong, that FI people wouldn't say neutral. But Dulles, who's an INFP, says, I would usually describe my FI state as flat or neutral. That is equilibrium state and is good.
Yeah, I like watching the typing sessions even though I usually know the type before, because I ask. And,
or I just tell you that without you asking. Oh, I typed today.
Yeah, it's fun. I like.
I never even thought about how I might be ruining the viewing experience for you.
No, but I learn through the videos that we watch. Like I was able to tell he was an FE. Like some of the things that he said, I was like, oh my gosh, that's FI. Like that's FI. Like him being like, I want to be a parent. I don't want to have a lot of kids. Like he was very like confident about the things that he wanted.
That's true. It's funny. I never even interpreted that in that way at all. I never thought about that as meaning anything with like writing FI, and I think that's because I'm FI polar. I don't note that that's an example of introverted feeling. I guess partially because I felt like I knew I wanted to have a kid fairly early on, so my introverted sensing says, well, that must not be introverted feeling, I guess. I don't know why I didn't notice or think of that, but what I noted was the mirroring thing in general. So, like, Rachel, when she's even sitting right there, when she's engaging with me and we're both talking to the camera, she'll just unavoidably do the FE thing, look at me, give me visual cues as to how I'm doing, then look back to the camera and stuff like that. And it's all just unavoidably so. Yeah. Whereas with ISFPs who have ignoring FE, they really don't do any mirroring stuff. So you can see what I would call sophisticated mirroring in Addie, where she mirrors, but she varies the thing that she does. She mirrors in the sense that my moving prompts her to move too. but she moves in some way that's slightly different than the way that I move, so that it's not silly, right? So that it's not obvious that she's mirroring. The thing is, I think that's, in some sense, one of the more reliable ways to distinguish whether if somebody's FE1 or 2, I think they just can't help it.
I can't. And people think that I'm like intentionally copying them sometimes. Like, why are you doing what I'm doing? I don't even notice that I'm mimic.
It's not even mimicking, it's mirroring, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a mostly unconscious process. I might do it as well, but I'm kind of hyper aware of it from typing people. It's hard for me to use myself as an example for something like that.
I see it in myself. I recognize. I'll try to tell myself like not to do it.
So Boba Fett says, I think most people would say, okay, good, when casually asked what they're doing. What makes this type specific? Well, it's the nature of the question. In other words, I'm not casually saying, how you doing? I'm saying, how do you feel emotionally right now? Which is a much different question than how's it going, right? And it's in the context of a typing session. So I'm basically saying, no, I'm not just asking you casually how you doing. I'm asking you to check your emotion and
I'm not ISFJ.
Corinne, the thing is, if you were a serious person, you'd come in and say, I actually think Rachel's an ISFJ, and here are my reasons why. Instead, you want to make an unsubstantiated claim, but position it as a question, as though it were already common knowledge that she were an ISFJ, and I'm the only one who doesn't realize it, which makes you a troll. Okay? And it makes you a weak troll, too. Very weak. You need to troll better than that. Remember, look. Unsubstantiated claims are like turds. It takes no particular skill to make them, and they all stink. Okay? Even babies can make them.
Yeah.
So, that's my new saying for that.
Can you say it again?
Unsubstantiated claims are like turds. Anybody can make them, and they all stink.
That is so great. That is so quotable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's such an Annie Tom. Mm.
Yeah, and so it's a variant on the opinions aphorism, but the thing that makes it interesting is it takes advantage of the word make. Because you don't have turds, you make them.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
So, not a lot of hot action in the live chat today. What does fourth slot do with the mirroring thing? I would expect ISTPs don't mirror very much. I think third slot does or doesn't, depends. Sometimes I do, usually I don't. Probably I'd expect to take the lead and maybe be the thing that the other person mirrors. But I don't think that the fourth slot FE mirrors much. Talk about the 1 and 5 axis.
So Karma's pimp, like your fiber intake must be pretty high. I'm guessing if you're eating a lot of berries.
Well, just because all he eats is berries doesn't mean he eats a lot of berries. He could be on a berry starvation diet.
So he just takes one berry.
He just has a few berries a day. The 1 and 5 axis, right.
1 and 5.
NE and I. In the dominant plays out differently than it does in any other slot by far. So it's like I'm not going to mistake any NI user for even possibly being an NE user unless they're NI dominant. So, the reason is because NI dominant has the capacity to extrovertedly intuit well, especially if it's reactive, especially if it's an INFJ. So in other words, Rachel and I can riff off of each other pretty well and joke around and stuff. She's usually reacting off of me. I'm leading, she's following, and working with me in that capacity, ideationally. I used to do it with Corey as well. Corey is an INFJ, and he has some instances of demonstrating extroverted intuition that would look to somebody who's not a dominant extroverted intuitor like pretty impressive extroverted intuition. What it really is a sequence of good examples of introverted intuition. And the thing is, when my extroverted intuition validates on introverted intuition grounds, it's primarily because of introverted sensing reasons. So in other words, I've learned introverted intuition over years and by consciously prioritizing it. So the thing is, and also by having this meta map to understand different kinds of intuition, you're going to see from me a lot more introverted intuition validating shit than you will from a lot of ENTPs. You're not going to see NI ignoring in every aspect of what I do. You're only going to see it in some things. Now, and if you're trying to test my NI, you're going to get very strong NI results if you're testing it as a skill. Because remember, extroverted intuition tests a lot better as a skill because it is more like a skill than introverted intuition, which is a knowledge function. So, when I'm asked to demonstrate the subject aspect, the part of introverted intuition that people can display and point to, what I'm really being asked to do is display good extroverted intuition that validates with introverted intuition knowledge functions. Introverted intuition doesn't produce ideas in that fashion. It discovers them or happens upon them. Ideas collapse down from sets of data rather than being generated, milled out, and then found in the general meh, right? So it's a difficult question to answer in some regard. Both in every instance of the mirrored functions, whether it's the N's, the S's, the T's, or the F's, you're looking at there being some gray area where the currency of one is the product of the other and vice versa. So, like, for example, with TI and TE, the currency of one, namely effectiveness, is the product of the other. Like, for my explanation to be meaningful, it's got to be understandable. So in that regard, I have to make what I'm saying useful to other people in order for it to validate on any grounds other than TI. So in that regard, my FE directs me to include actual utility of your usefulness of this, what I'm saying, into the equation to some extent. And there's this common ground between TI and TE when it comes to explaining things. Or especially something like lesson plans, directing somebody through a series of tasks that are designed to teach something. That's where TI and TE kind of come together, you know? What has the little voice inside your head been saying lately? That's an excellent question. Let me think about it.
I like that Google.
I guess mostly like I need to make more money. I have a little voice inside of me that periodically goes, hey, hey. It's definitely saying that. What's your little voice inside of you saying, Rachel?
Well, here's the thing. It's a song.
Okay. What song is it?
You have the mechanical hands.
Oh.
Yeah. But, I get critical like that sometimes too. Like, I'm like, should I, like, apply places? Like,
Well, I mean,
don't
what I
know.
consider a little voice in your head is basically your minder periodically scolding you about the same thing or pointing out something. For me, a little voice in my head links, I guess, to ignoring an I. Kind of. It's like, don't forget the important things. Or it might link to a 4-slot SI. You know, don't forget to take care of yourself. That's to me what I hear when I think little voice in my head. For you, being a knower, you think things that sort of you keep receiving in your head, which are
Yeah.
this song you keep hearing in your head. You know, Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of times, a song will repeat over and over in my head. And I know the cure for it too. It's to listen to another song, but sometimes I don't mind having it in my head, so yeah, it's a matter of mood, I guess.
Yeah, it is a matter of mood.
Yeah, because like, I mean, yeah, so a song, like a pleasant song is stuck in my head right now, but not too long ago, I was only wondering about whether or not Eric and I would be both invited to my cousin's wedding. It consumed a lot of my thoughts. So, in your head, in your head.
And then, after that consumed a lot of your thoughts, a lot of your thoughts were consumed by what you were going to wear to say
Yeah, I can't deny that. It's so embarrassing, but it really is.
You're a girl, Rachel. It's just to be expected.
When I heard that you could wear black, I was like, ugh. And you know, like, yeah, it figures like I go to the store and like all the colors this season are black, white, beige.
Oh my god, I love beige.
Bright blue.
Beige is such a stunning color. Nobody's ever called beige stunning.
You just did?
Oh my god, that beige decor is stunning. Nobody's ever said that.
No one ever has said that.
Although, Richard Dawson did name his child Beige Dawn. It's true story. Beige Dawn Dawson.
Wow. Beige Dawn Dawson. Oof.
Why, you might ask, did he name his child Beige Dawn? The answer is nobody knows.
Oh my gosh, I just realized that there was no creamer in this. I was like, oh, that's coffee.
You said, what's wrong with this coffee?
It's got no creamer.
Oops. Coffee without creamer is like a day without sunshine.
Okay, I can't lie though. There are days where I like need a kick in the ass maybe.
When you're feeling phlegmy, that's when you like to have it black.
How do you know?
Because you told me before. You just don't remember very many details like that.
I like that you remember.
I remember, my darling. How could I forget what you like when you're phlegmy? That's such an important thing to know. That song. That song was "Mechanical Hands," or I don't know what it's called, but I'm not sure what the band's called
I think
either.
it's called Mechanical Hands. Hold on.
But it's this band that sounds kind of a lot like They Might Be Giants.
They totally are inspired by this.
But they're very good anyway.
Yeah.
I like them. And I've got 2 songs of theirs on our playlist that we listen to right now, which is the other one being In the Ghetto, in the Ghetto.
It's the same one.
Is that the same song?
Yeah, it starts out like that.
Well, but I do have another song by them, though, don't I?
No, I think you do what you do. You do,
What is
but
the
it's
other
not.
one?
I don't know.
I think I do have another song by them, though. Anyway.
Ruler of everything.
Ruler of Everything. Yeah. That's the Mechanical Hands song.
Yeah.
Do I have another one on the playlist? Do you see?
I will look for it. Oops.
I think some of it evokes that comparison. Men like gods, but much less so than this band. I mean, the Might Be Giants is the quintessential ENTP band. They've got hundreds of songs. They've got a database in which they have tab and lyrics for all of their songs too, available for everybody.
The song's called Ruler of Everything by Tally Hall. One word.
Okay, and that's the only one by them on the list?
I don't know. Let me check. How do I look?
Just scroll down. I'll look on the computer, it's fine. Okay, I'm going to look. Tally Hall is the band name. And I found myself singing that song a whole bunch too. Just like, couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
In the ghetto, in the ghetto, in the meadow. The other one is that song about if you got money to spend it on me. I'm taking advantage of the bourgeoisie.
Oh.
That's the other one. I can't think of how it goes exactly, but let me view full playlist. It's called. It's called. I don't
Bidding.
know. The Bidding?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's called The Bidding. Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
Good eye, good eye.
Thank you, thank you.
That's what I say every time Rachel gets a walk. Good eye, good eye.
Thanks. I think I would have a good eye. One time I was so frustrated and I didn't know what to do with myself, so I took a bat that I had and a baseball or a tennis ball, I forget, and I was like tossing it up and like trying to like hit it myself. It was so difficult to do. It's not easy to like throw it up and get the timing of your own like toss. It was. And the male guy was like, I wish I could pitch it to you. And I was like, thanks, I wish you could too. And then, not too long after that, I hit it over the fence. And I felt so good about it.
That's pretty good stuff. Boba Fett asked a very interesting question that I love to have asked of me. What's your most NE and NI songs, respectively? What's my most NE song is impossible to answer. It's who knows how many minute long freestyle of me just yabbering over beats or whatever. My most NI songs are probably Satchel of Helpful Goods, Matter of Mood, What's the Big Problem is pretty NI.
What's the matter?
I mean, that What's the Matter song has a lot of NI to it, but it has a lot of instances of NI, so that it would, most people would you might say, well, it's sort of like an example of a musical theater archetype. And in that regard,
that's true.
It's got NI.
It is.
It's got a clear NI sort of form that it follows, but where is Bird Medium Hurt? It's not clear. It's not clear from the lyrics of the song. It's left up to the listener. So where is he?
Nice,
It's an excellent question.
Thanks.
It's an excellent question. Dallas, that was very interesting to hear that your father or you, or your wife worked with one of the John's fathers in an architectural firm in Boston. Fascinating. But the John never visited his dad at the office. Well, makes sense. Why would you visit your dad at the office? I'm sure he must have visited him at home, probably. Was his dad really proud of him? Yeah, I knew that was one of the two Johns, but thank you for providing the context for others, Dallas.
Oh, see, I don't even know who those two are.
Eric, you're my therapist and can't just leave for 3 days, man. No, seriously, use FedEx like the rest of us. Use FedEx for what? It's like it's good for me to lay fallow, like a field for a few days.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too that it is Sleepy Week, technically. So.
Earl Flansburgh was a weird guy.
Really?
It's strange because, of course, his kid's an ENTP, and he's a weird guy. My parents, you could say a lot of things about them, but I don't think anybody would call either of them weird.
No.
And yet, here I am. I think a lot of people would call me weird, so it's like, I'm not sure which. It's like I don't believe much in genetics and typology, because, like, my parents are both sensors, but they made an intuitive.
Yeah, but I think that. Yeah.
Neither your parents have FE, and they made 3 kids who have FE.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh my gosh. No wonder, like, Christmas was so easy for my mom, because, for kids, all they have to do is believe in Santa and write a list of what they want, and then it's easy for them to get. Like, I don't know.
John Mayer has some good songs. Is he the one who sings that song that I like? Mm-hmm. That railroad song?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he does have some pretty good songs.
Well, okay. My dad is funny in the sense that that I have funny stories to tell about him, but if you were to watch him spend his day, you would be as bored as anybody in the history of the world could ever be. I mean, not that watching me spend my day would be particularly interesting
my
either,
day would be pretty, like...
You'd be watching me watch things, mostly.
Me too.
At least during these sort of off stretches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a media consumer.
NISE Ubermia.
Ubermia. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like
Axis matches.
Isaiah Root, he comes from a family of intuitives. Yeah. Like, his whole family's full of intuitives. But
so funny.
Ash, not the case for me.
No.
And, as far as I could tell, none of my relatives were intuitives, except maybe...
I love it.
Except maybe Ella May, Aunt Ellie. She was a a lesbian college professor at Arizona State University.
Wow.
Before that, she was allowed to be officially lesbian.
Wow.
But she lived with her friend. Her friend.
LMA.
That she lived with for many years. Mary. Her friend Mary. They weren't just friends, though. That was the big secret.
That's the big secret.
My mom was always angrily, like, pro Ellie and anti the rest of the family's mostly unstated homophobia, I guess.
Wow. Go Jane.
Yeah, Jane always liked Ellie a lot. I think Ellie was probably an INTP.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think so. She's some kind of NTP, probably. Anyway, and sort of alpha quadrant royalty, maybe, from my mom. I'm not sure. I don't think my mom really had any opinion about those kind of things, except she was just she had a fundamental alpha quadrant egalitarian approach towards things that she just didn't like people being treated differently from each other.
Oh my gosh, I loved, even though it was, she was still like, I mean, I don't even know what to say. She, like, was deep in dementia. I love when she expressed her anger towards Trump by hitting the newspaper. And she really liked, what's her name? Elizabeth Warren. She'd be like, I like her.
My mom's hatred of Trump was one of the last bits of sort of ideation that she retained.
Yeah, it was...
Like, after she'd forget who I was, she'd still remember she hates Trump, like, she'd see a picture of him in the paper and get angry and pound on it. And boy, did she hate that man.
Eric's dad would have to take away the newspaper. Because,
now, Jane.
Yeah. Because she hated him so much. And also, I noticed about your mom, like, I was always commenting how smart she is. She took it very humbly, but when I called her sweet, she, like, glowed. Is that the word? Glowed? She was glowing.
Deontology is a normative framework that broadly qualifies as egalitarian in nature. In other words, deontology refers to a specific thing, which is a normative framework, whereas egalitarianism refers to a general philosophy of prioritizing people being treated the same. It's not really a normative framework. It's like you can have a more egalitarian or less egalitarian normative framework. So
exactly, Boba Fett.
I would say, for example, deontology is more egalitarian than utilitarian calculi.
I like to tell people that I was born dirty blonde so that when I make mistakes like that, like... she grew up!
Is she glue? Did you say glue is past tense of glue? I like that.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to keep that. The Globa glue last night.
Aww.
Well, my mom, RDL, had always been much further left than my dad. So, like, I remember she volunteered to do, on a couple of occasions anyway, to do campaign work for a candidate named Anderson that was campaigning, I think, in 1980. So I think he was probably the candidate that lost in the primaries to Mondale. Walter Mondale, who lost to Ronald Reagan. So
Oh.
I think she was campaigning for a guy who working for a guy or contributing to the campaign for a guy who lost in the primaries. But his name was Anderson, if I remember correctly. And he was fairly left, you know. My dad's always been much more, well, I mean, my dad's
so middle.
It's really hard to classify my dad. He's a correctist like me without being particularly constrained by principle, except the general principle that which is not expressly forbidden not be permitted, which is so broad a general principle. It's like, that's your general principle?
Yes. But he is always surprised that that I'm not a fan of Meghan Markle. It surprises him. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't get good vibes from her. I can't explain it. You know, and I wish I had an answer for him that would, you know.
I bet if there were a Google term search that was called authentic usage, then the usage of landslide under the authentic usage category would peak in 1980.
This is a song?
No, because Ronald Reagan legitimately landslid the fuck out of Walter Mondale. He landslid him beyond all recognition.
Wow, I didn't know that. See, I'm learning.
Yeah, there's this famous ad of Walter Mondale trying to look tough by riding in a tank, and it just, everyone was just like, even in 1980 was just like, oh, double facepalm Walter Mondale. It could have been 84. Was it 80 or 84? I don't remember. The fact that I remember so much about it suggests it would be 84,
so
not
funny.
80, because at 80 I was 9 years old. But, you know, I might have remembered that much of it anyway. 84? Okay, 84 makes more sense from my memory. Yeah. I was 13, so... Oh, that was Dukakis. Oh, I'm mixing up Mondale and Dukakis. My bad, Dallas. Dallas is right. The guy who rode in the tank was Dukakis.
I was wondering...
Michael Dukakis. And everyone was just like, no, Michael Dukakis, you look like such an idiot. Sitting out there in the tank all smiling with his thumbs up.
Oh, my God.
That was in 88.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Well, it shows you what my SI is from back then. I get a few different elections conflated.
And it shows that Mondale was bad too, only winning his home state. I never knew that.
Oh yeah, well, but
my gosh.
By the end of his second term, Reagan was totally full blown Alzheimer's.
Really? So was what's her name?
Nancy.
Yeah, was she
Nancy was running shit. Yeah, Nancy was running shit for sure. In fact, there are clips of people asking Reagan question and him pausing and Nancy saying to him what the answer he's supposed to say, and then he says it. There's lots of clips of that from back in the day towards the end of his second term. I think Nancy had plenty of sway by the end of that second term. I would say that we had President Nancy Reagan for most of that second term. I think you're overestimating or underestimating the bullishness of that woman. She married Ronald Reagan, the actor, because she's a mover and a shaker and a power player, you know, and
is she 369?
She's got to be 3. Nancy Reagan, a 3 for sure. And then a 1, not a 9. 3, 1. I don't know about the last one. Probably 5 or 6. Is that true? Nancy Reagan gave the best blowjobs in all of Hollywood, according to Kitty Kelly. Who's Kitty Kelly? I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is, but that is
fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I would never have expected that of Nancy
Me neither.
Reagan. One time, Rachel wore a red dress, and I said she looked like Nancy Reagan.
Yes.
And I haven't seen her wear red since.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think she took that really as a compliment.
No, I didn't. I only want
It was hard for me to pretend that I meant it as one.
I have one in blue that I like better.
every time I see somebody in red, I just think Nancy Reagan.
Well, yeah.
She kind of ruined the color for everybody.
Damn, yo. That sucks. Red looks so good on me.
I mean, I like it as part of an outfit. It's just like if I see a red, all red, like business suity looking thing of any sort.
Oh, that's so.
Or business dress, like business professional dress. Anything that's business professional, suity, or otherwise kind of not for just going out on the town and is red, then I think Nancy Reagan.
Okay, stay away from red. It's good to know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring us both down with my negativity with that one.
Oh no, it's totally fine. I actually did wear it a second time after.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't notice.
I don't know. Yeah.
Why would anyone ever have Nancy Reagan come to mind in fashion, women's fashion? Well, because I have my own SI set of reference points, right? Yeah. So it's like, if you were to dress with big shoulders, I'd say probably you look like Paula Abdul.
I love you too. Are you hungry?
You know, if you say if I ask you what lady you think of when you think of lady with broad shouldered clothes, my thing is Paula Abdul. But probably younger people think of somebody else who's more their generation's broad-shouldered person. Who's a broad-shouldered clothes lady?
I only think of like 80s working women. I think of Nancy Reagan.
Has broad-shouldered clothes ever come back since the 1980s?
Yes, they did.
So there's got to be somebody who was wearing that during the time that they came back.
Well, Paula Abdul is definitely a good reference. You have good reference. That's why I was like, okay, if I look like Nancy Reagan in this, like, I can't. Like, I did wear it again. I did.
It was out of my mouth before I could stop myself from saying it. I don't know.
It's totally
like, oh,
fine.
no,
I don't want to look like.
All right, take those words back.
Oh, it's fine. I wore it a second time.
You think pink dresses are linked to Jackie O? Jackie O is such an old reference now, though. Only like geriatrics would think that. I don't link anything to Jackie O except maybe those hats that are all round that go straight up like this.
What?
Doesn't she wear those kind of hats?
Like.
It's just like a cylinder. It's like a little cylinder. Let me look at what kind of hat Jackie O wears.
A pillbox?
Maybe. I'm not sure what it's called, but
you're good with fashion, though, I have to say.
Jackie O's hat. Images. See, like this. It's just a little cylinder on top of her head.
Yeah, it's true. They're all circular.
It doesn't have any brim, really. This one has like a fold, but like this is what I think of as like the Jackie O hat, you know.
Cool.
That's the only thing I would associate with her particularly.
Yeah, and that's like an ode to her for sure, you know, that chick in the red.
Oh, this isn't her?
They mix. No, it's not her. That's
Jackie Kennedy Onassis.
That's not her. Recreated. That's
Oh, it's Kaya Gerber.
Yeah.
Kaya Gerber playing the role of Jackie O, probably.
In fashion. Yeah. Joan Crawford is famous for shoulder pads. Later on, Dynasty, Linda and Jill Collins made them fashionable. That makes sense too. I can see that.
Okay, who do you most associate with?
Pillbox?
What's a famous woman you most associate with bunchy sweaters?
Bunchy sweaters.
I have someone in mind, but I don't know what her name is.
Bunchies. Bunchy sweaters. Winona Ryder.
That's a good one. Winona Ryder.
I have seen Grey Gardens, Men Like Gods.
Judi Dench. Let me see who.
Judi Dench!
Let me see who Judi Dench is.
Funny. I think of...
The mom from Who's the Boss? That's a great
Oh,
answer.
that's a great one,
That's
too.
a great answer already.
Mm-hmm.
So let me look up Judi Dench. I want to see who that is. Judi Dench. Oh, see, I'm imagining
so.
this lady who used to play like NFPs in 1980s movies.
Oh,
80s actress, bunchy sweaters.
NFPs.
'80s actress who wore big sweaters. Like, let's see if I can spot her anywhere. She always played like this girl who's having like emotional stuff going on.
Claire Danes?
Who played emotional characters. Let's see.
What shows?
She's like in movies.
She's in movies?
She was in like this, you know. We were talking about some 80s movie the other day where, I don't know if it was an actual one or just sort of riffing on the idea, where it was about some people with white wine and having conversations about Derek going to... It's like, she was in those kind of movies. And she played the kind of emotionally volatile one. No, not Molly Ringwald. The Cosbys did have the best sweaters.
Yeah. They take the cake for best sweaters, Cosby Show. Thanks.
You know, apparently it helps put the roofied women at ease. So
I do picture Claire Danes in bunchy sweaters from watching My So-Called Life.
I didn't even hear your Claire Danes comment.
Susan Sarandon?
Maybe Susan Sarandon. That might be the one I'm thinking of. If not, it's someone very much like her.
The only other person I could think of is like Andie MacDowell.
The one I'm thinking is she's got kind of like a thin face and she's got kind of like big eyes and it's always like, oh.
I can't think of it. I don't know who it is.
But I can't think of it either. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll see her in a movie and we'll know. We will know.
Oh my gosh. Well, Susan Sarandon was... Oh my gosh, I think you're right. I think he's right with...
Claire Danes is very much a bunchy sweater actress.
Yeah.
Even though I can't picture her in any films where she actually wore bunchy sweaters, but
she's wearing a sweater there.
Right here, yeah. Look at this. Claire Danes kept nodding off on the set of Homeland during her first trimester. She probably had to stop taking Adderall. I bet you that's why.
I like that.
Oh, I'm afraid I have to stop taking speed. I'm going to be sleepy for months. I've been on it for such a long time.
When she goes casual, she goes sweater.
Yeah? Alright, so who's that other lady we were talking about?
Andie MacDowell?
No, there's somebody else.
Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon.
Yeah,
right.
80s. Put 80s Susan Sarandon.
Okay. 80s Susan Sarandon. Oh. Who is that awful woman who was on Golden Pond?
That's a bunchy thing.
What is?
That one to the
This? It's pretty bunchy. But,
she's more like slouch over the shoulder.
who's in On Golden Pond?
I don't know.
Who's that horrible, horrible person who's in that movie? Actress. Let's see.
I've never even heard of that movie. Jane Fonda?
Jane Fonda.
Oh my gosh, she does wear sweaters. Can we look at Jane Fonda in sweaters?
Jane Fonda in a big sweater.
You know she does.
Let's see. God.
So many sweaters.
I don't
We're
like
like
Jane
all
Fonda.
like even the retro one, she's in a sweater.
Why do I dislike her so much?
Because she okay, I don't know. She's like
I'm Jane Fonda.
yeah.
Hooray for me. I'm vibrant, I'm real, I'm here,
yeah,
I'm Jane
yeah,
Fonda.
it's very much like that. Oh my god, I'm so glad that we got to that.
It's still not the one I'm actually thinking of. The one I'm thinking of has a kind of a weird face, kind of like an elongated face with big eyes. Maybe more recent than the 80s.
I'm like really reaching.
No, not Tracy Gold. Tracy Gold was a teenage crush of mine, though, before she got super too skinny. Juliette Lewis is an excellent guess, and she qualifies as somebody who plays the same kind of character, but is not the correct answer.
I just saw a movie with Juliette Lewis in it. It was called August Osage County. I thought Juliette Lewis did good for the role.
No,
It's a
this
weird movie.
this woman I'm thinking of would not be known as a beauty. I don't think. She's a character actress. She's
a character.
She's got
actress?
kind of a long face
Shelley Long.
with big eyes. She looks kind of like Shelley Long, but it's not Shelley Long.
Wow, this is so difficult.
I can't
Phoebe
think-
Cates.
I don't know. Phoebe Cates is a
No.
girl in Fast Times at Ridgemont. No, or,
Yeah.
it's one of those movies.
Christina Ricci's another good guess, though.
But also not correct.
Yeah.
She,
Are
it's
we
like
looking at, like, 80s here?
if Christina's Ricci's face were turned a little bit more into like The Scream, that famous painting, that would be what this girl looks like. It might be Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall! Oh my god, I get.
Let me look that one up. That
That's
sounds like
a
it might
guess.
be right. Images of Shelley Duvall. Yeah, that's her.
Oh.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Shelley Duvall.
You guys got it. Whoever got it, got
Nice.
it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Thank
saying?
you for your help.
You know how I'm saying? If she's like
She is always the vulnerable one.
Christina Ricci with her face made more look like The Scream.
Yeah. She does. I mean.
She's screaming right there.
Yeah, right there.
Shelley
She was in The
Duvall.
Shining.
Oh. Yeah, she's you nailed it. Whoever got it.
Yeah, they
that
nailed
that
it.
is the answer. Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley
Who
Duvall is
said
the
that?
answer. Men
Men
like
Like
gods.
Gods.
Thank you. You got it. That
Thank
was the one
you.
I was thinking
Thank you.
of.
I'm so glad we finally got to it.
She always plays like the emotional lady.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. She definitely wears bulky sweaters.
Oh, I'm so happy we figured out who it was I was talking about.
Yeah.
I thought
Isn't
there
that
was no
so
way we were gonna
gratifying?
get there.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, that's
But you never know.
Shelley Duvall. I never would have come up with that name in a billion
Oh my
years.
god, I was reaching. I could picture her in The Shining, but I couldn't get her name.
But as soon as you said it, I was like, you know what? I think that might be the one, and it was. But it's like it's weird how my SI kept some bit of information that linked that name to the image in my head.
Yeah.
But I could never produce that information, but I could recognize it when I heard it. That's an odd kind of, like, the lowest level of memory you can have on something, kind of, you know?
That's so fascinating. Oh, memory.
What color are the sweater am I thinking of? I'm thinking of brown, yellow, beige, like stripes, like big stripes, like horrible, like big Afghan brown, orange, yellow sweater, and it being like 1981, and she's sitting like this in front of the fire with her glass of wine. But Bob, and, you know, whining some FI shit.
She totally that.
That's how I picture the scene. I don't know if there's actually that exact scene, but that's the image I picture of her being Shelley Duvall. You know,
She was definitely like that in The Shining.
3 Women is one of your favorite movies. I've never heard of it. It sounds terrible.
I've never heard of it either. I know of Shelley Duvall.
It sounds like at least 2 too many women. Diane Keaton. I think Diane Keaton was relatively attractive.
Yes. I do too.
Let me look at a picture of her. Diane Keaton. Now, is she related to Buster Keaton?
That's a good question.
Let's find out. Using today's internet. Diane Keaton. Oh yeah, she still looks pretty good as an old lady too. You know,
uh-huh.
She's got a nice smile.
She's aged nicely.
I bet she's fake as hell though. She looks so practiced in her smiles. I bet as soon as she gets off camera, she's like, "Get over here, Juan."
You think?
Doesn't she seem like that a little bit?
She probably does.
There's ice in my lemonade. You know I hate that.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so sad.
I don't really know if that's really how she is though. I'm just guessing from this like
I mean that
like
picture.
this, right? Like I'm forcing a smile.
Forcing a smile right now.
Let me look up Diane Keaton 1970s. Yeah, she was pretty attractive back in the day. Looks like an NFJ. Well, not so much in that picture. Depends on the picture. She looks like one in this one. She definitely looks like an INFJ in that picture. This is...
I used to wear ties.
You used to wear ties?
Yeah. Like she did.
Like
in
this
that
here?
picture. Not like that.
Oh, like here?
Yeah, well, it wasn't, like, I didn't have a suit that fit me, but I had shirts with ties.
Yeah, she kind of was into that look, huh?
Mm-hmm. She still is.
Well, I would say that Woody Allen probably made her a little bit bitter.
Bitter?
Well, he's kind of a weirdo.
Yeah. Weirdo is the word for him. Definitely for sure. Well, he's had like a lot of different famous actresses and actors, I guess. But actresses in particular in his movies.
Isn't Jamie Lee Curtis dead?
No, I don't think she is.
No, last I saw, she was making Activia commercials. Activia! It's probiotics, which means It'll help you poop, even if you're old, like me, Jamie Lee Curtis. Boba Fett. C.S. Joseph walked by a woman having a stroke. He figured she was an ENFJ. His latest video. That woman having a stroke was an ENFJ. Is that true? Or is he just joking? Or did he really say that? He walked by somebody having a stroke and decided that was a good time to type them? Ah. What a weirdo. Carrie Fisher is dead, yeah.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher. She's the one.
She died of hard living. What she died of.
She did hard live.
Mm-hmm.
I read all about it or at least half about it in SNL.
She was yesteryear's. What's her name? That lady that everything said is who always wild and gets in trouble. Who was on Saturday Night Live as Hermione? That one thing when she looked.
Lindsay Lohan?
Yeah. Carrie Fisher was yesteryear's Lindsay Lohan.
But, yeah.
You know, when it was, you could hide being Lindsay Lohan a little bit better, maybe, and so there was less like people coming and saying, "Come and let me help you" or whatever.
She partied with. Didn't she like marry Paul Simon? They got married for a little while.
Carrie Fisher?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan is my hero for successfully being allowed to take her Adderall while in court mandated rehab.
Wow. For her.
That's just like, fuck yeah, Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, I'll be sober, except for speed.
Yeah. That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah,
like that.
good for her, you know? You know what I tell you really ruined that song Rehab? They told me I should go to rehab.
Yeah.
And I say, nah.
The fact that she died?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what really ruined
really
that
fucking
song
ruins
Rehab.
it.
It was
Yeah.
a great song prior to that. Made you want to be like, yeah, fuck off, you know? And
Yeah.
then, but she died really young and of alcohol poisoning. So it kind of makes it not that fun of a song anymore.
Right. I know. Yeah.
But, you know.
I know, and it was so great before.
I stand with Lindsay regarding her policy on Adderall and rehab, okay?
Me too.
So let it be known right
Yeah,
here.
I stand with Lindsay on that as well. She's from Long Island. She used to play basketball, and some people from the area, like, met her through that.
She's pretty much the character on whom that BoJack Horseman girl is modeled after, you know?
Modeled after, for sure.
Was she the chick in Black Snake Moan? I don't know.
That's Christina Ricci. She's still alive.
If you want to see Lindsay Lohan at her best, I will try to find you a
It'll
link.
be easy.
Okay.
Yeah. She was beginning of the Google era, so.
Lindsay Lohan SNL Hermione. Hermione Growth Spurt is called. Stop. Okay. So, are going to meow this. And this was 2000. Did they record this in 2013?
No. That was 2003, probably.
Okay, I was like, that seems like it was longer ago than that. Yeah,
I remember. I was.
Christina Ricci's not dead, is she?
No, she's not dead.
Okay, so that's Lindsay Lohan in like 2003 says, Tawny Catane? Tawny Catane? I don't know who Tawny Catane is.
Me neither.
Hi, Lijo.
Hi, Lijo.
You just missed the link to a Lindsay Lohan video.
It's a good skit. It really is.
It is a good skit. And it's Lindsay Lohan before she really just said...
Yeah, man. She did that hardcore. She had a bad reputation. I feel, whatever. She's like doing what she wants in Greece right now. She's like a club and she
That's right. Lijo's name is Lindsay.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
That is a coincidence.
I've always called you Lijo, but you do introduce yourselves in your videos sometimes as Lindsay. I'm assuming that's not linseed, as in linseed oil. I could be mishearing, though. Maybe you're introducing yourself as linseed oil.
Oh my gosh. Just then, wow, I checked the vid and did not remember that check at all. Yeah. It's that bad. Not that bad, like, she was really good in Mean Girls, but, and in, The Parent Trap.
Yeah, that was her first video. Her first movie was Disney's The Parent Trap, when she was a kid still, right? And she played both the twins?
Yep.
And, received broad acclaim for her acting job in that.
Yeah.
Which is not an easy thing to do, to have to play both twins,
No, and have a British accent that's, like, believable, especially as a kid. So, she was good. But then, as she got more famous, she got more entitled. And she just, like, created, I guess, enough yellow flags in the acting game to get a red flag. So
She got a red card.
yeah, she got a red card.
We've been watching soccer.
Red card.
What's Lindsay Lohan up to these days? What happened to Lindsay Lohan?
She lives in Dubai.
Here's what she's up to in 2021. Lindsay Lohan currently lives in Dubai. During an April 2020 interview on Lights Out with David Spade, the actress revealed she's been living in Dubai for 6 years. Except for the occasional trip to New York, she hasn't spent much time in the U.S. I haven't been to LA in over 10 years. I think the paparazzi definitely scared me a lot. I haven't had any real reasons to be there. What's she doing in Dubai, though? She hopes to return to New York and LA to promote her 2020 dance single, Back to Me. However, the pandemic put plans on hold. So she's making music, huh? She has a jewelry collection with Lily Baker. I guess it's a British brand of jewels. And for $400, you can have the actress film a personalized video clip. And she's going to be on a judge for The Masked Singer in Australia. It's a pretty good deal. Get Lindsay Lohan to make a thing for $400 for you?
Yeah. She's gonna be on the Masked Singer for Australia. That's a good gig. That's
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty good deal.
yeah. She's doing good for kind of being entitled in the beginning.
Man, like, God, that's what I thought, too, when I read that. Oh, she's getting pooed on by the Sultan. Something like that, you know? I didn't actually think
Well.
that, but I thought, oh, she must be there semi-consensually. I just immediately thought that. I'm not picking on her. I'm not picking on her. I don't have anything against Lindsay Lohan. I called her my hero already earlier in this live stream.
Seriously, she's Lindsay Lohan. She's been fun.
She converted to hardcore Islam? Huh. Well, poor Britney Spears.
Yeah. We listened to part of it, not the full thing. I haven't heard the full thing.
I just feel bad for the girl because, you know, she's ill-equipped to deal with the world in general, sort of by nature. And she's just not had a competent, like, potential significant other to help her since Justin Timberlake. Basically.
Yeah.
That's the last good boyfriend that she had.
Jeez.
Unless you like K-Fed. Who was
But he
not a terrible father.
Okay, but like, no, K-Fen? No.
I mean, no, I'm not saying you should like K-Fed. I'm just saying it did seem that he wasn't a terrible father.
Oh, no. I didn't.
I don't know.
No, he was whatever. K-Fen was whatever. He just, like, I guess couldn't stay faithful to Britney or something. I don't know. They had their thing.
She just wants to ride around in her boyfriend's car. Wait, one makes a good observation. You just have to rub her the right way.
That's the other one. That's Christina
I believe
Aguilera.
that's Christina Aguilera, though.
Yeah.
That's how you get Christina Aguilera's genie out of Christina Aguilera's bottle. Okay? With Britney, you got to go down to the bottom of the ocean and retrieve something that she dropped there. That's a lot more challenging.
I don't remember that video.
Oh, you didn't have to do this for me. How sweet of you.
So, like, I did some, I read up on her latest boyfriend because, like, I'm like you. Like, I feel very, like a protective, like, I don't know, like I can easily, like, be in her shoes. Anyway, like, her taste in men is, like, whatever after Justin Timberlake. So I, like, checked out her new boyfriend who she met through her music video. And, like, I did, birth card, which is like what playing card your birthday means, and I did a like between the two of them, and there were like good connections, so I was really like happy for her. I don't know, I don't know anything about him really.
Would an FI first be careful with their words because of fear of making others feel bad or fear of looking like an a-hole? Well, the former, an FI Dom. But it really depends on where it is in the stack. I would be tempted to say that the real answer is the former for people who have F as an absolute value, but whether they'll express that or not, it depends on whether they have FE or FI in the front stack. So it's like, it's really the former for me, even though FI polar person. I'm careful with my words because I don't want to make others feel bad. However, if I were to be asked about why I'm careful with my words, I'd be much more likely to say because I don't want to look like an asshole. The thing is, I have this ongoing conflict between what kind of assholery I think is appropriate and deserved, and what kind of assholery I think is too rough and tumble with people's feelings. And so, being FI polar means I don't end up actually prioritizing the former, but at the end of the day, it has more impact on me. In other words, I'll be bothered if I feel like I actually hurt someone's feelings. If I look like an asshole, I figure I can clean it up, you know? I can fix it.
I used to call myself an asshole.
That's an interesting distinction there, Sheila. Careful with words because I don't want others to view me differently than I view myself. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that about Amanda Bynes. I mean, the thing is, it's important to remember where your absolute values are. So, your N's, your mirrored functions, your N's, your S's, your T's, and your F's are going to be absolute or instrumental values. For me, it's the N's and the F's that are absolute values, and it's the T's and the S's that are instrumental values. And for Rachel, it's the N's and the T's that are absolute values, and the F's and the S's that are instrumental values. So, in that regard, it's one of the things that makes things work well. It's like, at the end of the day, my feelings are very important to me. Her feelings are less important to her.
Yeah.
But genuine fairness, an environment where she doesn't have to worry about her feelings very much because she knows she's being treated fairly consistently.
Yep.
That she's not being taken advantage of, or in general made to defend herself by expressing feelings like, "Hey, you're crossing my boundaries."
Yeah.
That in such an environment, she's much more comfortable. So it's similar to, and it's reciprocal for the TI thing in me. It's like, I don't really care about fairness as long as my feelings are respected, because I always figure that if it's unfair, I'm being more giving, and if my feelings are being respected, that means I'm not feeling taken advantage of. I'm feeling appreciated for whatever unfairness there might be, which validates against my third slot FE and against my 7th slot FI, which doesn't require any logical justification for things. So, I just, at the end of the day, logic and effectiveness are very much instrumental values for me. They're not goals in and of themselves. I recognize especially the power and utility of introverted thinking as an instrumental value, and I prefer when others validate things through that same metric because it makes things easier for me. But I don't really value it for myself. You have an idea at your wedding you will skydive with parachute as your entrance. What's your significant other going to do? Catch you in their arms?
These edibles are really good. I think the weed's good too.
Yeah. TI tends to want to use the correct words. If I don't, both logic functions. I mean, TI wants correctness to be determined by definitions, basically. FI wants correctness to be determined by their authentic, subjective attachment to something or detachment from it, you know. And of course, the thing is, what makes FI the more complicated deliberation function is it has to factor in a lot more considerations. So, you know, you may want a thing, and you may also want the overall situation to be fair, and you may also want others to perceive you positively, and you may also want this other person to be happy, who's going to get happy if you don't get meow. Now that's a complicated decision as to whether you're going to get meow or let somebody else get meow, right? It's a complicated decision because it's got many different factors and no definitional clarity. There's nothing about it that says, well, the answer is definitely this, because it's not about, presumably there's no inherent right of the other person to attain the thing. If you got to it first, let's say, and there's one left in the store, and somebody else you're with also came to get one of those things, do you get it for yourself or do you let the other person get it? That's a complicated question. It depends on many, many particulars and can't be, there's no correct answer to it, right? Because you have to factor in the many different levels at which you value a given thing and different how they're all going to be impacted differently. In contrast, TI says, well, regarding those matters, I have nothing to say about it. You have the right to it because you got there first. If you choose to defer that right, well, now let's hand over this kind of thinking to extroverted feeling, because now you're talking about interface shit. You're not talking about deliberation shit from my TI perspective anymore. And so then FE goes, okay, well, what do I want? Do I want to be the nice guy who says, you take it, or do I actually want the thing? You know, usually for me, I want to be the nice guy, right? Because that's FE third. But sometimes if I really want the thing, then I want the thing, you know. Talk about an objective perception of authenticity, valuing it highly in an FE way as opposed to an FI way. Well, simply put, some people are more active in constructing an affect than others. And some people are more actively trying to sell you on who they are than others. So I'm somebody who's consistently trying to sell you on what I'm saying, not who I am. And yet I'm also aware that I'm giving a lot of cues as to who I am that are linked to what I'm saying in various ways. So I probably get a little bit more credibility like this, sitting here as a couple with Rachel with a kind of a nice black background and this picture of people, and even though it's kind of random, than I would just against the green screen. If I were to do it more TE focused, outcome focused, and if I were to have thought of it ahead of time, maybe I would have done this. I'd put something more like a psychiatrist office background behind me, and maybe even dress up in a tie and a shirt, you know. I could still sit here with Rachel, who looks more dressed up than me right now, a little bit anyway, because she's got on this nice black dress and these nice earrings, whereas I have no such adornments like that. If I had my hat on, I think we'd probably be equivalent. If I had on this brown hat, you know, maybe this one, because it's in arm's reach. That would be now that sort of sets the tone as more casual, kind of, but also a little bit more like garden party, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I like black dresses, and I like wearing dresses. Period. Like being in the warmer weather. I definitely am always on the search for like summer dresses.
Yeah, well, but with that goes without saying that every person, not just every woman, every person needs a little black dress. Obviously, I include myself in that calculus. I don't have one currently, but it's because every little black dress that I've put on thus far has revealed my genitals. It hasn't been long enough.
I have a question. My grandma would always ask me what my favorite color is, and I would say black because it would be the most consistent color that I have in my wardrobe, especially at the time that she asked. Like, I did go through a color phase. I go back and forth, I guess, but she always would be like, they question it. Like, why black? And I'd be like, I don't know.
So let me
Is that
address.
a problem?
No.
Okay.
I'm over here listening
Cool.
to these things. Let me address what Fate Wind says. Think of TE like TI, but in the external world. Example, logically organizing a warehouse. But here's the thing, Fate Wind. This is the important thing to remember. What do you mean by logically organizing a warehouse? You don't mean logically. You mean something else. Think about it. What do you mean? What does it mean to say that a warehouse is logically organized? The color of my shirt is as it appears on screen. It's this is the actual color
nice
of it.
Shirt.
It looks very similar to what it looks like in the
It's
picture.
very nice. It's like
Blue and gold and dark blue.
Mhm.
Light blue and dark blue and gold.
This man knows his colors.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I mean, you might say it's a bit of a coppery gold.
Yeah. It's gold. You're right. That's the best color to call it.
Yeah. Efficiently organizing a warehouse is going to be the correct answer. So to logically organize a warehouse is to efficiently organize a warehouse. To efficiently organize a warehouse is to organize it for a particular outcome, as Legend Falls says. So that's what makes TE logic particularist logic. In other words, TI is a universal logic because it doesn't require those particulars to determine whether or not something's valid. At least validity is universal, okay? Whereas with logistics, quote unquote, or organization for efficiency, it's defined by the particulars. So, yeah. And the thing is, we all do that, though. Like, oh, this was a very illogical way of doing this. I'll say to myself, maybe. We often will use that term kind of loosely. Or I'll say to myself, this is a dumb way to do this. If I'm critiquing my own TE, which is often poor. Poor to very poor, I would say.
And then, like you said, whenever, I hurt Eric's feelings, I burst into tears, and I hate that because I try to be so good with my FI. I mean, I guess I try to be. I am demonstrative with it.
Well, that's because, Fate Wind, the brilliance of my smile that lights up a room has burned out your corneas. So that's why you perceive my colors incorrectly.
That takes me back to an old meme about the blue dress, gold dress.
It takes me back to an old joke I made a long time ago. When I'd say, my smile lights up a room.
Wow!
What would demonstrative FI look like? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, I hope she feels better soon. Random stupid shit like, oh, well, you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Is that what I say?
No.
Oh.
But you're not the only INFJ in the world. You're not the only 6-slot FI person. You tend to... you definitely do the... oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're okay kind of thing
really
all the time. Even if I'm just complaining about something inconsequential like... I don't know. What did I complain about earlier? Something like, I banged my elbow on the side of the thing when I was going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and it was dark. And she, I'm so sorry. You know, she did that sort of thing, which is kind of a weird response because to me, I'm not looking for any commiseration really, but I just go, oh, that's okay, you know, whatever. I don't expect FI like that. I just expect not bad FE. If my smile lit up a dim basement, it would be even more illuminating if it lit up a well-lit room, which is already mostly lit by other sources of light, right?
Would you say that it glow?
Yes. My smile glue and lit up the dim basement.
Wow.
Is being blocked by an INTP for being logically inconsistent an example of their inferior FE? Being blocked. I don't know what you mean by being blocked. Do you mean precluded from moving forward on a line of argumentation?
I compliment Eric all the time, actually. Baywind, he takes it very well. He likes words of affirmation.
Do I think people under 25 should smoke weed or drink alcohol? I don't have an opinion about what other people should do in that fashion. But I would say I don't think that young teenagers should. I think it's probably not good for their brain development. I think the existing age of majority laws are appropriate. I don't think it's my place to give general advice to everybody about what they ought to do, right? Now, granted, you're saying, well, do you advise against it? Well, in general, I would advise against heroin. I think it's probably not the smartest drug to do. At the same time, in my 20s, I smoked heroin on a couple of occasions. I never got addicted to it. I never shot it. I didn't like it. It made me throw up. But I did. I mean, I've done just about all the drugs you can think of except for PCP and anything you shoot with a needle. Many of them prior to having full brain development at age 25. And yet, obviously, I'm perfectly intellectually competent. I'm certainly articulate. No, I gave up on them. I realized, Eric, you're being feeny. Just stop. Oh, you look beautiful or pretty. It's physical, not aesthetic. Oh, me? Thanks. Yeah, I'm gorgeous.
He is gorgeous.
I'm gorgeous like the Venus de Milo. In that I have no arms. Just like her. See? They're chopped off right there. Whatever, host. Okay, Fate Wind. Chasing the Dragon, they call it. Chasing the Dragon would imply that I'm trying to get a certain kind of high from a particular drug that's no longer really working for me. I would call this general fiendiness, and it is the case that general fiendiness, which implies like wanting to be more of a head change, right? Getting more of a head change, is cured in general by mushrooms, for me in the past. So after I do take mushrooms, I sort of become more comfortable with the natural paces of my SI-driven life, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what the cause of the, or whatever it is, but I have found the only drug, actually I can name, the only one that I think makes me feel better in general without, after it's over, is mushrooms.
And yeah, I think that's how I'll feel after it too.
Well, we'll find out if it works the same on you as me. But
Well, we'll see.
Oh, shocking! I never knew. I never would have guessed that you were just a troll. Oh wait, I did. I did guess right away.
Sheila W. Train spotting, like, freaked me out too, and it, like, at the same time, I was, like, kind of captivated by it too, but I tried to watch it a second time, and I was just like, no, I can't. I was like, I don't know, I skeeved out. But,
Yeah, I've actually researched the mushrooms question quite a bit, and it looks like whatever the reality about mushrooms, that it seems to have a very distinct relationship with people than from other psychedelics. It operates with the serotonin receptors in a way that's similar to LSD, but in the sense that it operates with the same receptors, but it's very different than, say, DMT. And I don't know. What I had always heard before, turns out there's really not any justification for it, which is, well, you should be careful if there's any sort of mental health issues that might lead to psychosis or something. It turns out that's basically just completely bullshit.
Part 2, I saw that movie also. And then another movie that was really tough for me because of, like, needles and injecting was the movie about, oh my god, that couple, Sid and Nancy. Really great film, but, like, just, like, could only watch it once. Like, I tried to watch it a second time, and it was just like, no.
Well, just yesterday, I made the mistake of briefly deciding I was going to watch a little bit of Planet Earth Africa. I stopped on it.
It's true, though.
And we're watching these elephants. They're sitting there in the sand. And then the narrator's like, but the mother will not abandon her baby. I'm just like, okay. Go, move, Eric, quick, fast. You've got to not know any more about this situation. I don't want to know any more about it at all. Quickly, change the channel.
Thought it was going to be something totally neutral, too, because it usually is.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to watch an animal thing and hope it doesn't do this mother abandon her baby shit to me. It's like literally the first sentence that we hear. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my god. We see them just sort of standing in the dust and not saying anything.
Oh, cute, baby.
And then the sad voice of the narrator, but
he predicted it. He called it. He told
mother
me
will
it.
not.
I was like, no, we can't.
Will not abandon.
No.
I mean, the thing is, Sheila, I have a very, very strong relationship with FI in that regard. Yeah. I am very avoidant of anything that makes me sad. Mm-hmm. Sad scenes will stick with me for a long time. So that's not necessarily FI front stack. It's just showing, I think it's FI absolute value, perhaps.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe it's everybody. I think everybody's got some sort of probably experience of remembering something that was really FI harsh, you know?
I had it with animals before. One polar bear story, I was just like, I couldn't.
The answer is because the INFJs are universalist in frame and tool, whereas the INTJs are only universalist in frame, in particularist in tool. That's the answer to your question. Yeah, yeah. It is true that INFJ's NI looks further ahead into the future, which is to say, it's concerned more about timelessness in entities. So, in other words, knowing the truth, the timeless truth of objects. So, if you ask an INFJ and an INTJ, which of these sets of songs will still be considered a genius piece of work 20 years from now, INFJ will be right about it way more than the INTJ will be right about it. So, in that regard, you're correct. But if you're talking about a particular system, the INTJ is going to probably look much further ahead into that particular system, especially if it's got any kind of TE mechanics to it. So, in that case, it would be incorrect to say that they necessarily look further in advance, because in those instances, probably the INFJ. Well,
I give the like chances of songs more than anyone that I know. Like I have like one of like ever. It's so random, and
I would guess this. I would guess that INTJs and INFJs were both likely to get in on cryptocurrency early.
Yo, but I didn't believe in it.
Well,
I was
Corey
like, this
did.
is such a yeah. That's what I mean. Like I didn't at all. Like I was like, this is totally a joke. Like I was totally wrong about it.
Well, I was convinced about it, but the thing is, I guess I had to think about it some. I remain convinced that cryptocurrencies will retain some value. That the amount of value they attain will link to their name recognition more than anything else, and that they'll basically be no spoilage commodities. That's the nice thing about it, right?
Yeah.
There's no spoilage. There's no place you have to store the shit. There's no transport costs. There's no accidents. There's no So in other words, it's going to have value simply by being a perfect commodity.
Yeah, and oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And it's like I get people who like remember when I told you about like on Instagram, someone was trying to get me to get into their cryptocurrency like thing, like that was always like my relationship with it. So I was like, no, I can't. Like that stuff, I am like not high risk. Like no, I don't. Not for me. It's like.
I mean, so crypto's down right now. What's the CBDC? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. I was introduced to Bitcoin through YouTube ads. There would be a guy like going through a house and he'd be like, I just like got this.
No, it won't kill the rest of the crypto. First of all, there is a legitimate use for certain cryptos, which is buying things on the dark web. There are plenty of people who buy mostly drugs off the dark web. I'm not among them, but I guess I just don't. I mean, here's the deal. In general, about cryptocurrency is that it represents actual labor in the sense that somebody's computers paid attention to mining it. It therefore represents the direction of attention towards some presumably productive endeavor, which represents the creation of new wealth in the world, and it represents the new wealth it creates by its consideration of others as being legitimate or of value. So, in other words, the greater the name recognition, the higher the value in general. But there's still the issue of people who want to make illegal transactions. As long as drugs are illegal, there'll be a wealth is no. Listen, you don't understand wealth correctly. Wealth is what happens when somebody does meaningful work of some kind, that is to say, pays attention to a productive endeavor. Now, some of this work can be speculative, or some of it is non-speculative, but that's getting further in the parsing than we need to get. The point being that if it turns out to be meaningful work for somebody, then it creates an abstract quality called wealth, that a quantity of it comes into existence that didn't exist before. Wealth is difficult to understand because it's fairly unique among things in that it exists in the abstract first, and its concrete representation is a symbolic thing. So instead of having a word symbolizing a real thing, it's a real thing symbolizing a word. It's backwards. So the thing is, a lot of people have misconstrued wealth to be something other than this. But remember that wealth fundamentally is a beholdence, which is to say that we understand wealth because it's possible for me to do something useful for you for which you owe me one that's of substantial quantity, and we have a need then to fungibly represent that, so that if I help you paint your house, you don't have to help me paint my house later. You can give me an equivalent amount of dollars to represent that quantity of wealth. In other words, the value that I provided by my work. I'm not saying that value doesn't enter into the equation, okay? I'm not saying the value doesn't enter into the equation. But what I'm saying is that the thing created, that value, is new wealth that exists prior to there being a tangible representation of it. So if you don't add more currency to an economy, what will happen? The currency that you have will get more and more valuable. You'll have deflation. Okay? So the federal government currently infuses into the U.S. economy a lot of new dollars all the time, and yet we still have only very small inflation. Why is that? Now, I'm not saying value doesn't come into the equation, Legends Fall. I understand that how much wealth is created links directly to how much value people attain in the thing being done, right? Absolutely it does. But what I'm saying is that it exists in the abstract before it exists in the concrete. So the tangible money that gets paid for it represents people's valuing of it. But remember, it doesn't account for the fact that that total amount of accrued value represents new wealth in the world that has to be represented by new currency. Or incur deflation. Deflationary pressures. Yeah. Using so much coffee creamer always makes me look like I'm doing blow or something. I got white stuff on my nose, But it's just coffee creamer.
I always have resin on my lips, so it's like it always looks like I'm smoking weed.
The thing to remember is there is no non-fiat currency. Don't make that mistake of thinking that gold standard is non-fiat. Gold's just a different fiat. There's nothing inherent about gold that makes it valuable except for its utility. Granted, it has plenty of that. It's mostly, though, its scarcity that makes it valuable, and its uncounterfeitability, and its other things that make it correlate well with a currency, or if not, one level below that, a commodity. So that's why it's a good standard, but it's no less arbitrary than the government, No, I never really got into it, Mac Daddy. I never liked cocaine. I always thought it was dumb. It made me feel so sick after I did it. And it's like it only lasted for a little while, then you want to do more of it. I just didn't like it. Do I have faith that society would function with a decentralized currency? Well, I mean, I think that whether or not our currency is centralized is basically answerable by one simple question. Can you pay your taxes in it? So, I might not be able to pay my taxes in Bitcoin, but I can convert my Bitcoin to dollars very quickly and pay my taxes in dollars. So, in that sense, we have a centralized currency. What would happen if we had a decentralized currency? Well, it would just mean that the U.S. government would accept now Bitcoin to pay your taxes. In my U.S. crypto presidential plan, I suggest we implement a U.S. crypto that specifically has built into the architecture a funding mechanism for basically a UBI, but it wouldn't be a UBI, it would be a UBP, a universal basic payment that stems from, it is whatever it is based on the math. It's not a promise of a universal basic income. It's just saying, if we adopt this and say we will allow this cryptocurrency to be used to pay taxes, that's the way you legitimize it. And then all of a sudden you've got okay, well, I agree in the mechanics of it. Blockchain is the key. And for the less savory uses of currency, that blockchain technology also matches up with an untraceability. In other words, there's plenty of arguments in the crypto community about whether or not any piece of cryptocurrency should keep a record of, in any way, shape, or form, of what it's been spent on before, whether or not it links to any individual regardless. So those are just separate questions, right? The darkest of coins are those that keep no record of what they've been spent on and no record of who's ever had it. So in that regard, you can use those to buy things on the dark web more securely than you could use, say, Bitcoin, which is a little bit more, I guess, traceable maybe or something. I don't know really. As far as all the details, like that kind of level of detail, I don't really know, but from what I understand.
Yeah, I don't. It's funny. Like, I think it's because I'm a 7 though. Like that, I would like. I don't know. It's like such different affect.
I mean, Boba Fett, here's what I'd say about Coke. It's the mistake you end up making again. It's like, you do it, somebody suggests, hey, let's get to have some of this the first time ever, and you do, and you're like, that was okay. And you feel sick the next day, and you go, I don't know about this stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was just bad, whatever. And then you get it the next time, it's the same experience, and you got a sore throat the next day from all the snorting and sniffling, and it's just like, ugh. And, and you kind of think, like, I gotta act like an ass last night, too. So you never really get settled into being coked out because you start wearing off being coked out and need to do more coke. And it's like, okay, this is a dumb drug. I don't like it. So it's like, I only did it a couple of times, really. And, I mean, the thing is, over the course of the last 3 decades, since age 20 or age 18 or something, I've probably done it a total of like 5 times.
That says something.
And I've never liked it. One time I smoked crack, and I didn't like that either. I mean, at the time, I wanted more crack, which is what they say about crack, right? But, I didn't want to do that again. And it made me really sick. I was like, had like what you might call chemical pneumonia, basically. Oof. The next day, I was just tore up. So, not good for you, crack?
Doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
He did say crack is whack. unless she really actually meant it, but...
How many times do you think a regular person would go on the dark web in his or her lifetime? Probably not that many, but I would suspect that most local drug dealers probably, if you were to just sample that pool, where do they get their drugs from? If you wanted to become a local drug dealer, it would obviously be easier or safer for you if you were to acquire them like that. Since not many people do that, it makes it very plausible for people who can do that to do that,
But I like to think that my Facebook pictures are on the dark web. They're all PG, but I like to think that's where they are.
What are they doing there?
Chilling. People looking at what it was like to live in 2006.
I didn't remove the message there. I said, how's your sex life? Fantastic.
It is.
How about you?
RDL was gonna answer that question.
How is it, RDL? How's your sex life?
I like that Mac Daddy thinks that you'd be a cool-ass drug dealer.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm more of a drug buyer. You've been called a spoiled brat by a few men? Well,
I've acted like a spoiled brat before.
you haven't really acted like that with me. Not in a long time. Not that I can think of. I think it has to do with how you mesh function-wise with the other person as to whether they're going to think you're spoiled or not. If you don't have the same absolute values, you're more likely to think another person's spoiled. So, like, if Rachel had in the second, the ends in the second and sixths, then she'd probably find my intuition indulgence to be an example of me being spoiled. In other words, indulging too much in what should be instrumental to something rather than an end in itself. Well, instrumental versus absolute values. So when I treat extroverted intuition as an absolute value, I can just put on a beat and make up random songs and raps and whatever over the top of it for an hour. Now, that's me treating it as an absolute value. But because it's not my only absolute value, and the ones that I need to incorporate as well to feel myself to be ultimately successful are extroverted feeling and introverted intuition, especially, but also to a certain extent introverted feeling, being authentic. I don't typically put that stuff out as media anymore, although there was a time when I did, right? So, in other words, growing up for me is not indulging so much in extroverted intuition as an absolute value, to understand that in order to be consumed as an absolute value by others, it needs to be constrained by extroverted feeling and introverted intuition. Introverted feeling maybe, or if it's a logical kind of thing, then introverted thinking. The most natural way for me to constrain my extroverted intuition was introverted thinking. So it took me a while to learn, like, okay, less is more, Eric, especially with music, right? Like, fewer words. You're too wordy, Eric. It's something I tell myself frequently. I'd like to be less verbose, fewer big words as well. So more simple, more NI in my lyrics. So in that regard, I'm showing that both the ends are absolute values for me, NE and NI. And to have a truly successful accomplishment of the absolute value frame, then, is for things to validate as true, concise and resonant, original and creative, socially graceful and egalitarian in their presentation. In other words, not condescending or something, and authentic to what I think and who I am and what matters to me. Those are my absolute values. My instrumental values are things need to be logically correct is my most determinate instrumental value. And the reason is because if it's not logically correct, I can't validate on my absolute values of truth or social grace, being perceived as smart or even original, because my originality would be dismissed as illogical. Then I would also say that obviously TE is instrumental in the sense that sometimes I got to demonstrate utility and I got to care about things that are effectiveness matters rather than matters of principle, matters of pragmatism. But I don't like to, and I do so sort of kicking and screaming. SE, instrumental. The only reason I set up the live stream is so that I could live stream. It's interesting how, like, if you look at an ISTP like Gen Xio, when he sets up his thing ahead of time, he's got a fairly clear scale, scope, and sequence of things and what the purpose is and all that kind of stuff. And it's not open-ended like this, basically, or it tends to be less open-ended, this stuff. Obviously, when he's doing gameplay, that allows him to be open-ended without having to worry about what the content is, right? And I would suggest that would show 7th slot, absolute value, extroverted intuition. Watch me play this game. Versus dominant, absolute, extroverted intuition. Listen to me come up with this freestyle. You know? Well, there's Genexio right there. What do you know? Speak of the devil. Not that there's anything devilish about you, my friend. I don't mean to say that you're evil or dark or have horns or a pitchfork or any of that. No sirree, Bob. So,
my original deck, the ones with the word, doesn't have the devil in it.
Right, that's right. You gave it to your friend.
Yep.
You burdened your friend with the devil. I'm just kidding. I'm about ready to call it a stream. Do you have any insight on how to treat BPD?
13.
That's a question that requires me to answer it. I have my insight onto how to treat it is don't try. If the person's, I mean, if you're talking about a relationship partner, you can't fix it, you won't fix it, you can't fix it.
Is it a family member?
I mean, if it's the thing to remember is how BPD occurs. It occurs because sometime during childhood, in the formative years, someone's been subject to a lot of abuse without really any reliable person to turn to, and you can't go back and change what happened before.
No.
So in that regard, you're dealing with somebody who was traumatized at a time when they were taking their shape and form. So the trauma sort of pounded into what they are. You can't really pound those dents out, you know. It's the shape they grew into. It's like this dent I have here in my ribs. There's this little indentation. It's like a little scoop right here, and I believe it to have occurred because I lay like this inside the womb, and when this was still soft, and then now it's set. Well, there's no trying to make those straight again or anything. It's fine. My body's growing around. It's not a big deal. But the thing is, if that's dealing with your identity, your ontology, which is to say, your development as a person in early childhood, and somebody's abused you, then they're not bad people. They're not bad people.
No.
And you feel such a sense of failure at your inability to help or fix them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you will take a lot of abuse regardless, and you can't justify doing that to yourself, no matter how much you love them or want to help them or whatever.
Hi, Trouble.
At the end of the day, there's something like sickly attractive about the relationship because there's so much emotional intensity to it. Like, Rachel and I don't have even a tiny fraction of the emotional intensity that I think either of us had in our relationships with our respective BPD partners. But that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. People can get quite attached to the emotional intensity and think like
it's passion or
and it's just
hashing it out.
I mean, I think it's BPD people trying to feel a real emotional connection with their partner in the only way they know how, which is not a healthy way. Okay, Trouble. I hear you, buddy. I hear you, Mr. Man.
Hi, Sean Ryan Barron. He says one has to identifying the triggers and learn how to intercept them before the reactions occur. Yeah, I went to a convention about mental health, and there was a couple who spoke about their son who has BPD, and they very much spoke how it's like your reaction to them is highly important. So it's like you walk on eggshells all the time. Oh, Trouble. Yes, Sean Ryan Barron, I heard that dialectical behavior therapy tries to accomplish that it works.
There's a big problem there. You've got an enormous hurdle to jump over before you get there, which is it's very unusual for anybody who suffers from BPD to accept that diagnosis.
Yeah, that's true too.
They all fight that diagnosis.
Yes.
Tooth and nail.
Yes. Yes, we were talking borderline. For the longest time, I thought BPD meant bipolar disorder. And then I realized that borderline was something different.
Yeah. Borderline personality disorder is one of the more poorly named and confusingly named of all the diagnoses. It's not about... It's sort of a poor personality disorder, which is what it sounds like. Well, you just got a borderline personality disorder. Not really a personality disorder. It doesn't mean that. It's about basically boundaries, not having intense difficulty with boundaries within intimate relationships. You know.
Like the one that I was in, he liked to see me cry, and I never understood why. I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I've never.
It meant you were emotionally connected, right?
Yeah. And
the thing is, we brought a little bit of that kind of stuff into the relationship from our previous relationships.
Yeah.
At first, I think we were both so accustomed to that kind of stuff
Yeah.
that we were kept expecting the other person to be doing it. We don't really do that anymore. I think we understand each other well enough now that.
No, and I was having issues like sleeping and like, yeah, I would say that we definitely brought stuff over from past relationships, but who doesn't? Because baggage comes with the territory. Luckily, we were able to get through ours, and it's very peaceful on the other side. I have to say, it's really nice.
I think it's quite plausible that BPD gets diagnosed as bipolar. It is PTSD-ish. BPD and PTSD have a lot to do with each other. BPD is kind of like embedded PTSD. So it's like built into who they are. They lose the ability to trust and to engage in the normal power exchange and exchange of vulnerability that's required to attain real intimacy. And in order to attain real intimacy, instead, they create enough harm that both people are raw. And they say, okay, good, we're intimate now.
So, like, I felt manipulated. Like, I definitely felt manipulated. And I was. There were times where I were. But I chose it, Like,
Yeah.
I went along with it, so.
Yeah, well, no reason to beat ourselves up for.
Yeah, no, it is. Past is past.
Because, it takes a little while for the patterns of behavior to really set in, and you start to go like, it took me a long time to figure out what was going on. And it's like, what is going on with this person? Why are my normal sort of, like, I'd say I love you, and she'd say things like, no you don't. Like, what? Why did you just say that? Why are you jumping all over me? I'm just baffled by your response, right? That's not the normal response to I love you, right? It's not, no you don't.
Yeah. That's such classic BPD line with Sean Rayburn. Oh my god, I think he said that to me too. I don't remember.
I always felt.
I do remember certain instances. Like, what are you doing, buddy?
I always felt like, did you not get the basic script on how these things go? These conversations are supposed to go? That's how I always felt with Kimberly. Like,
yeah.
No. You see, I just said I'm sorry. My bad. I made the following mistake. You're right. Now you're supposed to say, well, here's where I too erred a little bit. Erred a bit. Instead, she'd say, yeah, you are right. You were wrong, and you should feel really bad about it.
Oh my god.
And I'd be like, wait, no, that's not the way this fucking goes. That's not how this conversation is supposed to go.
No, I do. That's not the way it's supposed to go. I totally had moments like that too. Like, I was like, do you really have to be on your phone the whole time? Can't we have a conversation? And I don't I never understood
Hi, Trouble.
Yeah.
Trouble wants to emotionally connect. Is that who you're talking about, Sheila? He's going to chill with Pee-Pee, I think.
Yeah.
You're going to go hang out. You're late AF.
Better late than never, they say.
They do say that. They do say that.
Yeah. No, fighter, no.
You INFJs always falling for those not suave INTJs.
Oh my gosh, it's so true.
You know why? There just aren't enough mature ENTPs to go around.
I never met one before Jen. I didn't even know what an ENTP was. She was like, her thing came up and it said ENTP, but actually no, she's not the first ENTP.
Neither, Michael.
I don't know. I want to say Rick was the first one. I was like, I don't know, this type is different, but anyway. I definitely, like, my ignoring NE was like totally until my 30s did I realize that ENTPs even existed. So I think I'm lucky.
I'm sure that Jeff Shaw, you meant something other than coveted. It looks like autocorrect, probably. Maybe conflated. Or correlates with. Or, I don't know. You must have said, it must be autocorrected something. What are your thoughts on empaths, or rather the concept of empaths? I mean, I think probably people with either F in the first two slots could be described correctly as empathic, depending on what you mean by the word. Certainly, an awareness of how a given perspective act is going to make somebody else feel, or an awareness of how somebody else is feeling or caring or noticing of that, right, in the present moment, is what you would call empathic behavior. So I think it's going to be realized in one form or another from all Fs 1, 2, and then non-Fs 1, 2 are going to be called not particularly empathetic.
Like, would Delilah care if I talked about her?
No.
Delilah injured her knee.
I see you don't care about that. Yeah, that's fine. We can talk about that.
Okay. And I, like, the description of what happened when she injured her knee, I, like, had, like, thoughts about, like, times where I, like, struggled like that, too. And I could totally, like, I could totally picture it. Like, just, like, the struggle. Like you said, how she was describing how she, like, was torn.
Yeah, she kept trying to decide whether she wanted to run away from the wave because she didn't want to get her hair wet. She just washed it while she's at the beach, but she's going to go into the water to pee.
That's the 20s girl thing. I'm telling you, I was the same way.
Like, the idea that you could go into the water and pee and not get your hair wet, I guess you could, but it just seems so strange to me. But regardless, she didn't want to get her hair wet, so she turned this way. And then she said, maybe I'm not gonna make running away from the wave, so I should turn around and jump back under the wave, and et cetera, yada, yada, yada. The thing is, Jeff, I don't think it is. I don't think NIA correlates with age at all. I think in my personal example, I've become more NI for a couple of reasons, and after a couple of key distinct moments. So, in other words, I hung out a lot with an INFJ and watched him write songs that were way better than I was able to come up with, and it was just sort of hitting me in the face, you know. It caused me to ask a lot of questions and to try to frame my things more through an NI frame of reference before I even knew about cognitive functions. Once I learned about cognitive functions, it helped me even further to incorporate what you might say is to make sure that things validate on not just a TI level but on an NI level, because I had a frame of reference to refer to in a mapping sense. being a heavily map-oriented type, that helps me a lot. But I think there are plenty of other examples of older ENTPs who get stuck in different kinds of frames that don't work as meta frames and end up either bitter or have a big chip on their shoulder or whatever. I don't think in general that SI types manage to attain the level of understanding or deftness with introverted intuition that I'm able to at least display on some occasions. So I wouldn't generalize from me that age correlates with NI. If you look at my dad, he's as NI polar as the day he was born. And it's not because he's gotten senile or anything. He's always been like that. An example of his NI polar at middle age was when I was a teenager, before I ever started smoking cigarettes, before there was any reason to think I might be smoking cigarettes. I was like 13 or 14 or something. My dad found a cellophane cigarette thing from a cigarette box, like, one of these things at the back near the driveway, near the garage door, and accused me of smoking, and I definitely wasn't, and I have no idea how that got there. It probably blew in from the wind, right? But my dad insisted on, yes, I had been, and I never did convince him that I hadn't been, and I remember ending that exchange feeling very unfairly treated because, of course, I hadn't been smoking, but he insisted I had been because the evidence was right in front of his face. I'm like, yeah, but I have no idea what that is or how that got there, So, in other words, it's absolutely the case that NI does not necessarily come with age. As Rachel will tell you, my dad is very NI polar still, and it manifests in lots of different ways, some subtle, some less subtle. Like, he'll raise some sort of topic, I'll make a salient point about it, and then he'll continue talking about the topic as though he didn't understand my point until the very end, and then he'll maybe reference the fact that I had made a point that was somewhat different without really even responding to it. It's this weird phenomenon of not getting when something's determinate or what the point is, I am an ENTP and have been told throughout my life I should pursue a career as a therapist. Well, okay, let me say this about NTPs and psychotherapy or psychiatry. Rachel's psychiatrist is an INTP and is our sort of relationship hero. He's fantastic, and he had to deal with me the whole first session, fucking grilling his ass, and was did his best he could to answer everything in a way that would be satisfying to an ENTP, which is to say he better be an INTP, and then he cured Rachel, so it's like props to him.
Yeah, and I'm diligent with my medication. It really helps.
That's true. You are very diligent about it. It's true.
Because it works. I'm diligent with it because it works.
That's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. She was on medication before that was doing a half-assed job of controlling, but not knocking into dormancy or curing, in some sense, her symptoms of bipolar mania. Mm-hmm. And so it's not very... she didn't really take her meds all the time after a while because they weren't really working.
And it's just I don't even know why I'm on these,
And they had her on an assortment of things, including lithium, which she's no longer on, which is good. And trazodone, which Seroquel,
which is a common one if you are on Medicaid. Seroquel's a common drug used for bipolar. You know what? I don't know if lithium is really...
My dad's an ESTJ. it's interesting. His SI is great, but that doesn't mean he comes with sensible knowings when the data that he has from his personal experience is misleading in some regard, or doesn't give him any meaningful answer. Like, a classic example that I've referenced before of Polar is when somebody got him a ticket in the Bay Area with a picture of his license plate, even though he and his car and his license plate were nowhere near the scene. And he's not sure how it happened. So he concluded that it must be the neighbor boy, who at the time was like a senior in college at UC Berkeley, that since he's the only one that he knows that is in Northern California and that's where it happened, it must have been the neighbor boy who did it. It's just like, but he doesn't think that enough to accuse the person, but he thinks it enough to tell me, right? And it's just like there's not a good sense of whether or not that's likely to be the case. In other words, whether the totality of evidence supports that, or whether you're just seeing a personal linkage and extrapolating meaninglessly from there, So, of course, remember this, Jeff Shaw. Also, my dad has a PhD in philosophy. Yeah.
Who did he say he doesn't like Plato?
Maybe it was Plato, he said. I don't know. He talked, he's a surprising guy. He's surprising in lots of ways. He's done all kinds of impressive things in his life. And all kinds of interesting things, He taught political science for quite a number of years at American College or American University, or whatever it's called, which is over on the west side. It was like a university that wasn't specializing in academics. It was like for fashion, but it wanted you to get accredited for a BA, so you had to take certain classes. So he taught poli-science there for a number of years. He had different jobs, He was a director of the Census Bureau branch in Compton for a while during the 1980 census. And he raced Mini Coopers in Europe. He was on the Ford team probably holding up signs or whatever, some little job like that, but on the Ford team at Le Mans during the year they made that movie Ford versus Ferrari about. So he's had quite an eventful life.
Yeah.
He has lots of stories to tell.
Lots of stories, yeah.
So, I really respect my dad a lot.
Yeah, he's a respectable guy.
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing is, the drug combination that worked on Rachel apparently is sort of noted of late by psychiatrists to work particularly well with bipolar mania. Mm-hmm. They have one particular drug that combines two drugs that you could buy that's super expensive, but our psychiatrist prescribed each of the drugs separately, which is a much cheaper way to get it. Same thing, And in fact, this combination of three different things: one to put her to sleep, which is Klonopin; one to make the Klonopin not make her depressed, that's Prozac; and one to make her nut crazy, that's olanzapine. Olanzapine. Something like that. And it's like it was as soon as we got this 3-drug combination, the incredible thing was that it was a fucking light switch.
Yeah,
it was like hours after you took the Prozac. It was just
it was like I totally feel so much better, and like I'm glad that he listened to me about the depression part, because like I swear to God, like I never felt that depressed. I almost wanted, I don't like calling my parents, but I felt like that, like if he didn't believe me, I could call my parents and be like, they would be like, no, she doesn't get depressed like this, like. So,
is it Latuda that's the drug that combines the two?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it's one benzo, one SSRI, and one something else. I don't think it's that the other one's a benzo.
It's I don't remember.
It's olanzapine. Olanzapine is what it's called. I don't think it's a benzo.
It's not. It's in conjunction with Prozac.
It's not a controlled substance. Like, it's not the kind that they think is subject to abuse. You know what I'm saying? So that means it must not be a benzo.
Yeah.
Whenever I describe demonstrative TE, occasionally the word bullshitting unconsciously pops up. Do you find yourself to be a good bullshitter? I find myself to be a resolute non-bullshitter. The answer to that is yeah, I am an excellent bullshitter. But I have a form in which I can bullshit, and that's being a debate coach. I've watched plenty of, not watched, I've read that thing from Lesson Chronics. I've coached plenty of debate topics in which I've made cases that I don't personally believe in, or that I know are made up of bullshit arguments that I think are good bullshit arguments to make because they're too entangled and they're too much of a time challenge to disentangle for the opponent. So I try not to do that outside of competition debate. I recognize it as like a martial art, right? It's fine for me to use all my martial arts skills in a martial arts competition, but I shouldn't use martial arts skills to beat up somebody in the street. So in other words, I will defend myself legitimately, which is to say, if you keep saying wrong things to me, I will correct you. But I'm not going to bullshit in order to be right. If you're right, I'll go, oh, huh, and incorporate that or acknowledge it or whatever. I'm not interested in being the best bullshitter. I already know I'm the best bullshitter. I'm totally disinterested in that. What's the short acting one that helps you get through a situation? You mean benzos? It's you're thinking about Xanax, probably. I will say I personally don't love them. I don't love them because they tend to make me feel kind of mushy, or at least Klonopin does tend to make me feel kind of mushy afterwards. Like, it's kind of like blah. So, I don't know. I like the way that it makes me sleep sometimes when it's been a long enough time since I've taken it. But I'm kind of the ENTP will destroy the ISFJ 100 times out of 100. In that question, Eli. An ENTP studies debate vehemently for a year, and an ISFJ studies debate equally vehemently for 2 years. Dumb hypothetical maybe, but I thought I'd ask who's winning. ENTP for sure. For sure. It's just I've coached ISFJs before. I've yet to encounter one that likes it, that wants to do it. So it's hard for me to imagine one studying vehemently. I've encountered them being willing to do what they're told to, but not passionate about it, right? ENTPs are, if you get an ENTP who gets passionate about it for that first year, well, after 1 year, they've done most of the passionate studying they're going to do because they've learned most of what they need to learn to get over shit, to get over whatever hurdles is put in front of them argumentationally, right? To get around certain things and how to deal with shit, and they'll figure out, they care less and less in terms of putting time and attention into the craft, the better they get at it, because they feel they need less and less time to devote towards it. So after 1 year and 2 years, the ENTP would just destroy the ISFJ. No matter how hard the ISFJ studied in advance, they'd just destroy them.
Sounds like a good episode for Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter how prepped Morty is. He's never going to win the argument.
No.
He might win. He might win the argument, but he's never going to win the debate.
Yeah.
Right.
Wouldn't
He
that
might
be
win
a
the
good
argument.
episode?
Yeah.
That would be a good episode.
What's the ISFJ good at? They destroy the ENTP at? Resting. Keeping good care of themselves. Not very sexy stuff, really. Knowing that they already have one of those. For example, not buying something from the store and then getting home and realizing, oh, I already had that. I had that from last time. I was gonna save it. I forgot.
Oh my god.
Not doing that. But the other thing is, like, ISFJs can get very good at knowing what certain pieces of data mean by learning, as Oliver Linehan has regarding cognitive function typings. He watches the typing sessions, I think, pretty consistently, and he's gotten very good at what correlates with what, And so when I watch those chat sessions, he's nailing it, like, consistently, time and time again. Early on, he's getting it right. So what does that tell you? Can you conclude that just because he'd get his ass whooped at debate that he can't be relied upon in some intellectual-ish endeavor like typing somebody? No, you can't conclude that at all. Those are totally different kinds of things. Debate's very specific because it requires you to encapsulize like NI, a bunch of arguments, down to tags that summarize them, and then hammer each of those tags with a set of as many responses as you can, so you have quantity and quality going on. It requires so much verbal deftness that there's just no way in real time the ISFJ can keep up, even though if they were to each write something and each have as much time as they wanted, the ISFJ could compete potentially in terms of a well-written document, essay, or whatever. They're not going to do it in a real-time debate format.
The ISFJ comes back and has, like, a paper that they've written and some
Yeah.
summary of why they win.
Who would an ENTP not be able to destroy? INTP or INTJ? Probably after 1 year, the ENTP would still win against the INTJ. INTJs are a little slower developing. ENTPs go like this, and then plateau and slowly get better. INTJs go like this, and INTPs go like this. Because INTPs, they have a lot of pendulum swings. They'll overcorrect in direction meh, then they'll overcorrect in direction meh, then they'll overcorrect in direction meh, depending on what happened recently in a tournament they lost to. And it takes them a lot of rounds before they learn to stop doing that. So that's the challenge of coaching INTPs. INTJs take a little longer to learn everything, but once they learn something, they incorporate it into the larger framework in general, and they don't revisit it. So it's not like INTPs who are revisiting that thing, unless, of course, it catches them in a round in a new way that they didn't anticipate. In which case, they'll come to the coach and be like, what the fuck? INTJ Grace, I had a Grace, not the Grace that is here in this. I saw you here, by the way, Grace, hello. Not that Grace, but I had a girl named Grace that I had as a debater who was an INTJ, and she made no bones about, like, me not screwing around, and, she knew what she wanted to learn. She wanted to know. She had all the right, like, questions to ask, and she wanted to learn to say it the way I said to say it, and then I'd repeat it a couple of times. She'd say, repeat it again, and then she'd say it back to me, and I'd say, got it? She'd say, yeah. Now move, and she'd just, like, tell me, like, okay, now move on to this. So it was a great relationship, coach debater. I felt like I could rely on her and her mom too, who was, I think, an ESTJ probably, to handle the practicalities of shit as well as sort of keep me on track. It made it really comfortable. I'd go over there, they'd feed me. The mom would feed me, and then the daughter would tell me what she needed to learn, and I'd just say, okay, let me explain that. Oh, okay, let me explain this. So it was pleasant.
It sounds very pleasant.
INTPs are a pain in the ass to coach because they always think they know better than the coach does, and so it's like they'll sort of, and they'll shine me on too. INTP kids will be like, okay, yeah, I hear you. But then they won't do that in the round. And I ask them about, well, what the hell? He said, well, I was really making sure I didn't want them yet. It's like, just listen to me. Just do what I say. Stop thinking only your TI and only your NI and only your NE are good enough. Yeah, I could coach you in early August, Grace. Sure, when the topic comes out. Worst type of debate, ISFP. ESFP maybe, but ISFP probably is even worse. ISFPs dislike the whole idea of debate, which is being adversarial about abstractions, and especially saying as many words as you can about, it's like, it just seems to them totally missing the point. It's not consistent with FISE.
Anytime you mention ISFP, all I can think about is our cat.
If I had to design an unstoppable debater, well, I mean, your unstoppable debater is, it's basically an INTJ with 6 years of experience. That's your unbeatable debater. Your best debaters are, if you give an INTJ enough competition years, if you start them in 6th grade so they can learn absolutely everything, by the time they're a senior in high school, they'll have even mastered these fake FE shit that debaters do to convey FE, like debater FE. So, debater FE is, in like top level debate, is like, and looks like I've got an extra few seconds here, Judge, so let me just say bam, 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 for my last warrant, and that makes it time, right as the clock goes off or something. That's a little like FE flash or whatever. No, RDL. The thing about coaching is what I told Grace is I'm not going to coach her until August, and the reason is because in August the topic comes out. Me coaching a student on a topic basically is me creating an affirmative case and a set of negative blocks that are the best arguments that the student is going to then use in the round, and then me teaching all those arguments to the student. So what I do when I'm coaching debate is entirely driven by the topic. The first time I introduce a topic is probably the only time that I do any kind of lecturing or anything. The rest of the time it would be like, okay, Grace, read through the AF. All right, now let's organize our neg blocks into responses like this. And then I'll say, okay, let's say I ran an AF that argued meow, 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 meow. What would you run in response? Run the first 3 minutes of your first neg speech right now, responding to those. What's the angriest you've gotten with a student or debate opponent? I don't like thinking about getting angry at students. It makes me feel bad. I think of instances where I like made some little girl cry or something. I don't mean to, I'm just being like, yeah, learn this fucking shit. Debate opponent? I mean, the angriest I've ever gotten with anybody was when I was with Kimberly. I told her that early on in the relationship, and I
Wow.
still maintain it to be the case. I've never met anybody who makes me as angry as you make me, Kimberly. Kimberly had all my buttons pushing down. Every time I tried to argue with her, she would make me absolutely fucking livid because she refused to answer any of my questions. It would just drive me insane. Even the most basic question. She's refused to engage in the what I consider to be the process of reaching consensus, of being good partners and stuff. That is to say, okay, well, let's talk honestly and fairly with each other about this. Whatever it is. Surely we can agree on, finding something to agree on. She wouldn't let me get past that first step, you know? It would make me so angry. I'd say, why are you continually making me fight outside the city gates? Why are you continually preventing me from discussing any substantive issues by not even agreeing with me on basics so that we can get started? Well, she was BPD, you know? So it's not her fault, but that's the answer to the question. What made me the most angry was somebody who simply refused to answer my questions or engage in the process of discursive solution finding or whatever, you know? I mean, C.S. Joseph does not want anything to do with that. Yeah, I have reached out in various ways to suggest some sort of collaborative endeavor of some kind with him on multiple occasions, and he doesn't want anything to do with it because, I mean, it's like he typed that guy this morning as INFJ, but that guy this morning is clearly an ISFP. I can articulate why. His explanations of why don't withstand any scrutiny. So it's like, you know, when I point to like an extroverted intuition polar test and point out that this person is unable to do stuff that just about everybody else is able to do on an ideational level on the fly, then blah blah blah. Well, Grace, the thing is, that's the thing about BPD people. How they are with everybody, the less intimate you are with them, the more cool they are with you, basically. So they'll show who they are to the world, and basically what you'd expect on ISFJ, but they'll show their damage to people that they're most intimate with, that they care most about. The thing is, I think she valued her relationship with me a lot, and that's what made her sabotage it so hard, you know? It's like, and it's what makes them so tragic inherently. It's not like they want to be damaged. It's proof of the prime directive. No matter what, people want their maps and their realities to match. And BPD people have imprinted upon them early on in life that trust equals betrayal. That's their map. And they will compel reality to match their map. No, BPD is not bipolar disorder, Grace Chen. Thank you for asking that question. Rachel clarified it earlier. She used to think that as well. BPD stands for borderline personality disorder. And borderline personality disorder is caused by childhood trauma and abuse. And whereas bipolar mania is, I don't know what it's caused by. Nobody's really sure, but it's in the class of psychoses that, in other words, can be treated by drugs, whereas BPD cannot be treated by drugs. And BPD is usually one manifestation of basically fear of abandonment issues. Yeah, like Anna 5 says there. It's caused by people feeling as though they were abandoned by people that they expected to be able to trust. What kind of name is borderline personality disorder? Well, Grace, funny you should ask that. Yeah. We addressed this earlier. It's a confusing name because people tend to think about it. What, so do you have a personality disorder or not? Or is it just kind of borderline, you know? But really it means boundaries, basically. They're bad at understanding how to navigate boundary crossings. So being in an intimate relationship involves, for example, the voluntary exchange of power in certain circumstances to show your partner, hey, I'm a team player, or to show your partner, hey, I'm fair, or to show your partner, hey, I care about what matters to you, not just what matters to me, or for one of those kinds of reasons. The thing is, borderline people, they have trouble with those navigating those sort of border protocols, and they don't have the capacity to trust you enough to give over with the assumption that they're going to be treated kindly some vulnerability. And the more intimate you are with them, the more, in other words, they want to trust you, the more they feel certain that that you're going to betray them. Because, after all, what they've imprinted from childhood is the most important people in their life are the ones who betray them. And then they make that happen, functionally, by making you leave them because they become unbearable. By affect, do I mean persona? Well, by affect, what I mean is the part of the self that is purposefully displayed to a certain extent, maybe some extent less purposefully, but it is displayed by another person for somebody to see. So things that aren't part of my affect are part of myself that you can't see. Typically, when one talks about a person's affect, it implies some conscious projection of who I am that I'm trying to present as my public self. That would be more like persona. But I guess I mean it in a slightly more limited way than that. But, yeah. Yeah, well, exactly, Grace. BPD is basically a form of childhood PTSD that imprints as part of their identity rather than as anomalous to their identity. Identity like a traumatic event in adulthood might. So I experienced what can obviously be called PTSD when I found out my first wife was cheating on me, because for a while after that, every time the answering machine was blinking when I got home, which is how I found out about it. The answering machine, we had an old cassette tape answering machine with a landline, and the blinking light on the answering machine would make me go into like detective mode, trying to find evidence of cheating and stuff. It was clearly a BPD style, not BPD, but a PTSD style trigger. However, and even as an adult, of course, that made me much less trusting in my later relationships. I afforded my first wife an assumption of the benefit of the doubt that I've never afforded anybody since. So it still impacted me to some extent. Like, I never checked on her or had any doubts or anything, because I just figured, once you're married, people don't really cheat on each other. It just happens in movies or something. I don't know. That's being SI, right? It's being SI. Well, in my experience, my parents didn't cheat on each other, and their friends, as far as I know, they didn't cheat on each other, except for that scandalous one lady at the English department that my mom talked about. I'm sure that's not going to happen, So, no, I get that, Artie. I get that if someone cheats, it's an issue with them, not with you. I understand that now. That was a long time ago. And I understood it then as well, but it really disrupted my map of life. It's like reality ran afoul of my map in a way that presented a catastrophic failure of map reality consonants, which necessarily impacted how I mapped things going forward and how much I trusted certain kinds of maps, right? So even though I didn't use any of the sort of heuristic maps that one could have used to determine whether my wife was likely to be a cheater or not, which would have all told me yes, she was likely to be a cheater and I should be paying close attention, I just used no heuristics at all, except the general rule that she wasn't going to cheat because we were married, and never thought about it again. Now, in the aftermath, I probably had much less trust of those heuristics than I should have. In other words, even then afterwards, if I had all the indications and cues that somebody was perfectly trustworthy, I would still be sometimes triggered into a little bit of jealous detective stuff. As I was even this morning when I noted on the phone notifications that Rachel had received some emails from a phone number. I was like, what's all this about?
It's my mom's number because she has an old phone, so she was like texting me photos, but they're like old school, so it goes through email now.
Right. So, it's like, I know Rachel's not
No
cheating
way.
on me or anything like that.
I'm so
It's totally a
happy.
reflexive animal jealous instinct kind of thing,
Yeah, but you know what? I'm the same way. I told him I'm the same way. Like, when he said that this was Rose, I believe her name is, the ISTP. He's like, yeah, it was such a fun typing, and it was, but I was just like, I guess at the time he had been getting some.
Who's this Rose character?
Yeah, it was.
That's probably what you were thinking.
I was. I couldn't help it. It's a human instinct, I think, a human reaction. I mean,
It's strongly connected to our humorous bone. Okay, I'm gonna smoke this cigarette, drink this beer.
do you think that I could have?
Of course, darling. Which kind do you want? Do you want the Sunday driver, the GMO?
I don't remember what the GMO. Does.
I mean, competition debate's a sport. It's an end in itself like any other sport. It's funny, people don't try to make universal claims about basketball in that fashion. But dialectic, which is a discourse designed to determine the truth, is very different from debate. Oh yeah, Sun's Clips. After I smoke a cigarette, I'm gonna play a song or two and then call it a show. Call it a meow. I was able to watch the French pow 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 3 quick goals at the Swiss after it looked like the Swiss were about to go up 2-0 over France on a penalty kick. Great save by the French goalkeeper, and boy did it transition quickly into momentum for the French, who charged right down the field, and in 90 seconds scored 2 goals, and then another 90 seconds after that, it seemed like, had a third goal in the back of the net. And I was like, wow, those French really poured it on with their frog's legs and their béarnaise sauce. Do I ever listen to Dave Van Ronk? Nope. I don't. Is he your favorite Van Ronk? No, I'm going to watch the Clippers game. I'm going to watch the Clippers game and clean the kitchen maybe here. I'm going to squirt some cleaner, perhaps on the floor. I'm going to use one of these big sponges we got here at the sponge store the other day. We got a 3-pack of big sponges at the sponge store. It was pretty exciting. Would you like to see what they look like? I'll show you 2 of them.
They are fun.
One of them's already been removed from the 3-pack. Look at this. Big sponges, huh? And they've got a softer... Well, thank you, Eli, and thank you, Artie. They've got a softer side, which is this side. And then they've got a scratchier side, which is this side. As you can see. They kind of get the green screen a little bit confused, but you get the gist of it. They're pretty cool
Oh my
sponges.
gosh, they really are. And they're square or rectangle like SpongeBob.
Speaking of square, did anybody else watch the Swiss France game today? And if so, did you notice how square the Swiss coach was? Okay, he had on this square tie, and his face was very square, and his body was very square. Like everything was made of 90-degree angles. Did anybody else notice how square the Swiss coach looked today in the soccer game? No? Am I the only one to notice that? Looked exceedingly square.
I agree.
I was just like, wow.
I never saw him standing up full.
Yeah, if you saw the whole body shot of him, you'd really be like, wow, that guy's going full blast rectangle all the way down.
I like these sponges. Where did you get these?
We got them at that flooring place. Didn't we? When we went to get the tiles for the guy that did the tile thing in there? I think they were on sale in the bin, and we're like, I want to get those, and we did.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so now that you've learned about our extra large scrub sponges, sold in the 3-pack by Goldblatt. Yeah, Goldblatt Sponge Company. That's what they're called. They're the Goldblatt Sponge Company. Established in 1885. The Goldblatt Sponge Company has been in business since 1885. We can't really see it, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. Now, that's a lot of sponge making.
That's a lot of sponge making.
I wonder if it's still owned by the Goldblatt family.
Me too. You know what that would deserve? You know how on Sesame Street they would like take a trip to like the crayon factory to show you how like crayons were made?
Yeah.
That would be, the sponges would be a great go-to place
I'm
for
thinking,
Sesame Street.
or just family dinner at the Goldblatts. It's probably nonstop sponge talk, right? It's probably all about the absorbency versus the scratchiness, whatever they call that in sponge talk.
Did you know that there's an actor named Armie Hammer? And he actually is named after Arm & Hammer. Because he's like, I don't care.
Every life too hot. Too hot for TV. This song is too hot for TV. No, really. Every life lived reaches a time when the road disappears. There are times, dark times, times of despair, times when it's hard to feel good. That's when I look for my sack full of solvency and my satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Every life lived reaches an end when the road disappears. There are times I'm there, anybody else around? Or will I travel all alone? That's when I look for my sack full of solvency and a satchel filled up with home. And that satchel of nothing but bone. Satchel of helpful goods. 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 Tonight. Thank you. It doesn't really say tonight at the end. No. I just added that for no reason. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get the margarine tater tots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what he'll call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald always thought there'd be chance enough to return to the work left rough. He'd get back to it eventually, but his visions piled up and his plans would interrupt all the work that started off so hopefully. Now his mind is back on his business, thinking changing factless to listless. Oh, how all the people will shout his name. And Gerald knows he understands ever more clearly here now. He won't provide explanation regarding the why or the how. He'll see you and know you from inside your heart. Exciting, delighting, Gerald plays his part. And Gerald still knew there's too much to do, and he drops time in the underview. Too much to rebut, so where now and what? Too much time spent me picking the skew with you. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get the margarine's tasty spots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what he'll call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald has a thought. Thank you. Thank you.
Should I play one with the drum that Winston's mom gave us?
I mean, that's a pitched drum, so maybe a bit of a challenge to. You could probably do it with this song. It's just an A. If it pitches right, sure. I want to bust that out at some point, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I'd probably better off using a straight up regular, drum, like the clacker or the tambourine or the
flat one.
Or the flat one, yeah. Some folk call me a rambling man. Oh, some folk call me a rambling man, 'cause I do a lot of thumbing and a kicking cans, and I'm gonna do an answer good to call me names. My daddy wasn't well in Woodrow. I wasn't born and raised in no ghetto. As a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they've given. I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get along, gonna home and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I'm gonna find me a wealthy woman in a line of work that don't take no diploma, 'cause I ain't got much to lose but lots to gain. Oh man, my brother, I ain't no black and I ain't no yellow, just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I don't need no handout living, don't want any part of anything they giving. I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I'm a small town boy, been around a little. I like guitar and I like the fiddle, 'cause that's the kind of soul that can expand my flame. Blue-eyed Billy, feared and ready. I got to work just to be somebody. I'm a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they giving. I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Yeah, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. You want to play, what's it called? Brooding song?
Sure.
And then we can sing it together if you'd like.
Okay.
Turn that down a little bit. It's still a little hot. Alright, let me pull up the brooding song. So, as typically is the case, and not that I blame anybody, but we lose about half the people when I start playing music, which is fine. And I appreciate those of you who stick around for it. Got a couple more songs, then we'll call it a stream. Right, set list, Babette list. We're gonna go to the 75%, and we'll view full screen.
It's nice I could take a swig of this like before I sing and it doesn't do any like
Alcohol?
yeah.
It's true. Okay. You want to sing it together, or you want to sing the verses by yourself?
So do it together.
Okay. Just brooding here won't do any good, but brooding's more and more my style. I seek the cheery ways of standing where we stood, 'cause I've been stuck here a while. That's despite a natural selfishness that makes it easy to have fun, but flutters in the gut become a fist as all my visions come undone. I tried to string, distract, and drain the afternoon away, but heavy new realities bear down on every day, and for a bit I am out of it. Still unsaid.
Still I need get out of me.
Out of me.
Inside my head.
The stuff inside of my. It seems like everybody's so sensitive and ready to just get mad. I seek the civil ways of living like a kid, 'cause who wants to be the dad? Have we lost our sense of scope and scale? Our capacity to laugh? sense to know when not to wail, and how to tip the golden calf. I tried to string the track and dream the afternoon away, but heavy new realities bear down on every day, and for a bit I am out of it. I'm out of it.
Still unsaid.
Still unsaid.
Still I need get out of me.
Need get out of
What's
me.
inside my head?
The stuff inside of mine.
Still I'm sad. Sad for me.
Sad for her.
Unhappily.
Unhappily.
What you call sorrow.
What you call sorrow.
I call home.
I call home.
Blues that sing.
Blues that sing clear down to the bone.
Still I'm sad.
Still I'm
So
sad.
sad for me.
Sad for me.
Sad for her.
Sad for her.
Happily.
Unhappily.
What you call sorrow.
What you call sorrow.
I call home.
I call home.
Blues that sing clear down to the bone.
Down to the bone. Oh, that was good. We got through the end part so
Yeah.
cleanly. I'm very pleased by that. I think I'll play Pucker Chart before we go here. You're welcome to join if you'd like to sing along, Rachel. You don't have to. Either way, it doesn't matter. Oh. Oh. Well, he's Pucker Tart, lemon squeeze, the friendliest guy that you will see. Yes, he wants to be your friend, but he comes from around the bend, so it will be a while till he sees you again. He's Pucker Tart, lemon squeeze, he's a friend to you and me. He's international delights, favorite go-to right-hand guy. He's international like him, and he is also busy like his friends, the beaver bee. Busiest creature, busy as a bee, busy as a beaver, and so much busier than Pucker Tart lemon squeeze. Well, he's Pucker Tart lemon squeeze, shabba-doo-ba-da-ba-ba-doo-da. Pucker Tart lemon squeeze, shabba-doo-da-day. Yes, he's Pucker Tart lemon squeeze, shabba-doo-ba-da-ba-ba-doo-da. Pucker Tart lemon squeeze, shabba-doo-ba-day. And if you go to visit him for starts, remember bring something sour or tart, 'cause he's not a fan of sugary treats, because he's Pucker Tart and not Pucker Sweet. Yes, he's Pucker Tart, lemon squeeze, friendliest guy that you will see. Yes, he wants to be your friend, but he comes from around the bend, so it will be a while till he sees you again. Pucker Tart lemon squeeze, he's a friend to you and me. He's international delights, favorite go-to right-hand guy. He's international like him, and he's also busy like his friend, beaver bee. Busiest creature, busy as a bee, busy as a beaver, and so much busier than Pucker Tart lemon squeeze. Yes, he's Pucker Tart lemon squeeze, shabba-doo-ba-da-ba-ba-doo-da.
Pucker Tart lemon squeeze.
Shabba-doo-ba-day.
He's Pucker Tart lemon squeeze.
Shabba-doo-ba-ba-ba-ba-doo-da.
Pucker Tart lemon squeeze.
That day. And if you go to visit him for starts, remember to bring something sour or tart. He's not a fan of sugary treats, because he's Pucker Tart and not Pucker Sweet. Well, he's Pucker.
It's so good.
Thanks. That's a fun song to play. Okay, enough Pucker Tart lemon squeeze for today. I want to thank those of you who stuck around, especially for the music. I appreciate it.
Me too. I appreciate it as well.
And for those of you who didn't, that's fine as well. I
Yeah.
appreciate your attendance. Have a pleasant evening, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.